Well, good morning and welcome to this Tuesday, October 27th meeting of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors. I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask the clerk if he would please call the roll.
Thank you, Chairman Cox. Before I call the roll, I would like to note for the record that all 5 supervisors are participating via teleconference. As such, all votes will be handled by a roll call vote. Additionally, before we begin, any members of the public that wish to provide oral testimony during today's meeting, please review the instructions posted on the Clerk of the Board's webpage. 9 members of the public that have requested to speak to wait to dial into the meeting until the item is called.
Andrew, are you there?
Mr. Chairman, we can hear you. With that, I will now call the roll. Supervisor Jacob.
Here.
Supervisor Gaspar.
Can hardly hear you, Andrew.
Can hardly hear you, Andrew. Can hardly hear you.
Supervisor Gaspar.
I'll text him.
Okay, I can't hear anything now.
I'm next in a roll call, but I can't hear you, Andrew.
Give us one moment. We'll check with the audio. Let's retry the roll call. Supervisor Jacob?
Here.
Supervisor Gaspar?
Present.
Supervisor Fletcher? Vice Chairman Desmond?
Here.
Chairman Cox?
Here. Well, since we're all here now, we'll go ahead and get started with the proceedings for today, starting off with the invocation, which is going to be delivered today by Pastor Mark McCulwey from the Heart of Good Church in Rancho Bernardo, and that'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Pastor, if you would go ahead and lead us in the invocation at this time.
Thank you, Chairman Cox. I'd like to begin with Psalm 23, verse 1. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for your leadership in our life, that you indeed are our shepherd. And Lord, I bless the County Board of Supervisors. Lord, I thank you for Chairman Cox, Supervisor Jacob, Supervisor Gaspar, Supervisor Fletcher, and Vice Chairman Desmond. Lord, I bless them. Lord, they're serving, their leadership, Lord God. And I pray, Lord, that they would come alongside of you to co-shepherd our region, Lord, this county. Lord, I thank you, you have answers, you have solutions, Lord God. Lord, you are shepherding us out of lack, out of want, shepherding us into answers, shepherding us into solutions, shepherding us into things that are beneficial for this region. Lord, I pray for their protection, Lord, from that which would seek to take, Lord, that which would seek to steal. Lord, I thank you for good things. I thank you, Lord, a table prepared, Lord, for nourishment, for strength, Lord God, and perhaps even something to share with those who might be adversarial. Lord, I declare your favor, your peace. And Lord, I thank you for vision to see beyond, Lord, to see the future, and Lord, insight to see within the intricacies and the working of the various things that they're dealing with. Lord, I thank you for hope, and they're inspiring others that only see fear. Lord, I thank you for their health and their strength. Lord, I thank you your goodness and your mercy would follow them all the days of their life. Lord, thank you for this region, and thank you again for the County Board of Supervisors. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pastor McCulwey, we want to thank you for being a part of the proceedings this morning. We thank you and the Heart of God Church in Rancho Bernardo for starting off this meeting this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
This time, I would ask you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, which I'll go ahead and provide the leadership on. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll now proceed into the presentations of proclamations and awards. And the first proclamation is one that I'm honored to present, which is honoring Filipino American History Month. And accepting the proclamation is going to be Wendy Wilson Gibson, the Bonita Museum and Cultural Center Executive Director, Benito Batista, and Emma Francisco, curators of the Cine Quinto Philippine Stories in Film. You know, San Diego County is home to one of the largest concentration of Filipino Americans with more than 200,000 Filipino residents. And the Filipino American History Month commemorates the first recorded presence of Filipinos in the United States, which occurred on October of 1587, when Luzon's Indios landed on what is now Morro Bay, California. Filipino Americans are the second largest Asian American group in the nation and the third largest ethnic group in California. The Bonita Museum and Cultural Center is honoring Filipino American heritage through an immersive cinema exhibit called Cine Quinto, Philippine Stories in Film, through November 7th through the 30th. The film will take visitors through Filipino American history, starting with the beginnings of Philippine cinema and into the modern age of media and content creation by Filipino American bloggers in San Diego. Cine Quinto is an immersive exhibit in partnership with the San Diego Filipino Cinema, the Film Development Council of the Philippines, and the Philippine Consulate General of Los Angeles that includes an exhibit of historical photos of the Philippine film landscape from the 1970s into the present by renowned Filipino filmmaker and photographer Cesar Hernando. And the Bonita Museum celebrates the diversity of the San Diego community and commemorates Filipino Americans in San Diego County. It's for all of these reasons that the County of San Diego is also committed to recognizing and honoring Filipino Americans and Filipino American History Month. And this is obviously one such worthy organization to get this recognition. Therefore, it's been proclaimed by myself and all the members of the Board of Supervisors that they commend the Bonita Museum and Cultural Center for outstanding service, initiative, and commitment to Filipino Americans of San Diego County. And we do hereby declare the month of October 2020 to be Filipino American History Month throughout San Diego County. Wendy, I think you may be either calling in or may be visually present. At least I hope so. And if Benito and Emma are available to receive the proclamation, this is the proclamation that we'll make sure gets to them. Do we have somebody to receive it?
Benito Bautista is on the line.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Benito, go ahead.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Supervisor Cox and the Board of Supervisors. On behalf of the San Diego Filipino Cinema, first, I am Benito Bautista. I'm Executive Director and co-founder of the San Diego Filipino Cinema, and I'm also a practicing filmmaker in San Diego. On behalf of San Diego Filipino Cinema, our president and co-founder, Ben Nacho, our and co-founder, Emma Francisco, our board of directors, and our wonderful volunteers and creatives, I thank Supervisor Cox and the County Board of Supervisors for this honor and high recognition. We, San Diego Filipino Cinema, will continue to contribute to the vibrancy and diversity of the arts and culture in San Diego. The exhibition of films perspectives by the global Filipino filmmakers. And we will continue to nurture Filipino American filmmakers in San Diego. We will also continue this inspiring partnership that we've started with Bonita Museum, the Wendy Wilson, Executive Director, and Nimpa Akana, President of the Board. Filipino Story is one of the amazing and beautiful and exciting beginnings of this partnership. And with this, I want to say, I thank you, and truly it's an honor. Thank you very much.
Benito, thank you very much. And to you and Emma, we wish you the best. You're in some good hands with the Bonita Museum and Cultural Center, and I look forward to getting down there to see the exhibit November 7th through the 30th. So thank you very much. The next proclamation is going to be honoring the... Oh, thank you, Benito. The next proclamation is being presented by our Vice Chairman, Jim Desmond, and this is going to be honoring the Boys and Girls Clubs of Oceanside as the 2020 Nonprofit of the Year. And accepting the proclamation will be Jody Diamond, their Chief Executive Officer, Dale Mitchell, their President, and Henry Lycan, who is the President-elect. Vice Chairman Desmond.
Thank you, Chairman Cox. I appreciate the opportunity to honor the Boys and Girls Club of Oceanside. Every year, the California Assembly members and state senators honor a nonprofit of the year from their district. And the nonprofit of the year is an opportunity to celebrate the government nonprofit partnerships that support our economies, our communities, with the Boys and Girls Club, our children. Boys and Girls Club of Oceanside is a youth development organization that is dedicated to providing a safe, fun, enriching environment for the youth to spend during non-school hours. For over 68 years, the club has worked with the Oceanside youth, primarily from low-income families, to engage them in academic enrichment programs and activities. Excuse me. The Boys and Girls Club of Oceanside serves over 1,400 youth daily, providing stimulating and quality science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematic activities, and thousands of more children need these programs and positive guidance. Boys and Girls Club of Oceanside strives to inspire and develop and enrich young people to reach their fullest potential and confident, responsible, and caring members of our society. This County of San Diego is committed to recognizing and honoring these organizations who are dedicated to the best ideals of public service, and the Boys and Girls Club of Oceanside is one such worthy organization. So now today, Chairman Greg Cox and all the members of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors commends the Boys and Girls Club of Oceanside for their commitment to the residents of North County, and to hereby declare this day to be Boys and Girls Club's Day in Oceanside. I'm sorry, Boys and Girls Club of Oceanside Day throughout the county. So I have a proclamation here for the Chief Executive Officer, Jody Diamond. We will get you this proclamation, Jody, and if you've got a few words to say, we'd be happy to hear them.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Supervisor Desmond, and all supervisors for honoring Boys and Girls Clubs of Oceanside today with this proclamation. We were humbled to be chosen by the 76th District Assembly member, Tasha Berner Horvath, as the 2020 Cal Nonprofit of the Year. None of us could have foreseen the challenges that this crazy pandemic threw at us, but even though we had to adapt like crazy, we're so grateful to be open and serving our children and families. So thank you so very much for this recognition. And I loved seeing that proclamation. We'll look forward to having it in our hands. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Jody, and great job that you and your whole team are doing.
Thank you.
I also see that Dale Mitchell is here. Does Dale want to make any comments?
Dale is with the Fallbrook pantry.
Okay, very good. I stand corrected. You're right. Let me move on now to the second presentation by our Vice Chairman, Jim Desmond, which is honoring the Fallbrook Food Pantry. Also is the 2020 Nonprofit of the Year, and accepting the proclamation will be Shay Golak, Executive Director, Dale Mitchell, the President, and Henry Lycan, the President-elect.
Well, thank you again, Mr. Chair, and I'm also pleased to honor the Fallbrook Pantry. Food Pantry. I actually got a tour of this within the last month in this facility, and they're doing so many great things for many different people. I'm very honored to be presenting the proclamation today. The Fallbrook Food Pantry was nominated by Senator Brian Jones and selected by the California Nonprofit Associate as one of the 100 2020 Nonprofits of the Year. Food security affects over 500,000 San Diegans every day, affecting every population: working families, veterans, senior citizens, college students, growing children. Those are the ones that are most affected, and 1 in 5 are considered food insecure, are children. The food pantry has been, Fallbrook Food Pantry has now served low-income and disadvantaged families since 1991. They offer a well-balanced selection of food, promoting wellness from every individual in the county. In their community. Their program supports an average of 25,000 households. They visit annually, distributing more than 1 million pounds of food to those in need in the greater Fallbrook area. Over 3,000 registered clients are now able to receive food once a week, providing an average of 8 pounds of a nutritious food per person each visit. The Fallbrook Food Pantry serves an average of 500 families per week and through our programs, with a sharp increase during the holidays, and particularly now during COVID, we have a lot more people that are food dependent. County of San Diego, again, is committed to recognizing and honoring those organizations who are dedicated to the best ideals of public service, and the Fallbrook Food Pantry is one such worthy organization. Now today, Chairman Cox and all the members of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors commend the Fallbrook Food Pantry for their commitment to the residents of North County, and by hereby declare this day to be Fallbrook Food Pantry Day throughout San Diego County. So congratulations, great job, appreciate all you're doing. And I think is Shay, or I guess Dale is here. I didn't know if Shay wanted to speak or Dale. Either one of you want to speak. Go ahead. Shay?
Hello, I hope everyone can hear me. This is Shay Golick, Executive Director for the Fallbrook Food Pantry. And I wanted to thank everybody in San Diego County for this proclamation. We are a very dedicated organization to the greater Fallbrook area and surrounding cities who are experiencing food insecurity, especially during this time of COVID. As Supervisor Desmond explained, we are serving our community more than ever. We've been serving about 5,300 individuals since March because of COVID. And we've been distributing on average 40 pounds of food per person per week. So one thing that's been really wonderful about the community, the donors, working with the food banks that actually provide the food for us, is that we're able to provide more food than ever. So hopefully no one is going hungry. One of the things that we've really starting to kind of bridge the gap between food insecurity and education poverty. And the Fallbrook Food Pantry is currently having built a learning center, which will be a center where we can educate on nutrition, health and wellness, and adult capabilities. So it is a classroom environment that will have a demonstration kitchen, and along with our daily distribution that we do Monday through Friday, we will then monthly have a variety of classes. The expectation of that is that the programs become building blocks which promote health and wellness, self-sufficiency, independence, and the opportunity to be productive members of our community. So again, as the Executive Director of the Fallbrook Food Pantry, I wanted to thank Supervisor Jim Desmond, Senator Brian Jones for the nomination, and again for us accepting this proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you, Shay. Did Dale want to say anything, or Mr. Mitchell? No. Well, you've got a great proclamation on the way. We'll make sure it gets to the Fallbrook Food Pantry. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, Vice Chairman Desmond. We'll move on to the last proclamation for today, and that's going to be presented by Supervisor Nathan Fletcher. This is honoring We All We Got, San Diego Mutual Aid, and accepting the proclamation will be Christina Griffin and Candy Custodio Tan, who are co-founders of We All We Got. Supervisor Fletcher.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Cox. The COVID-19 pandemic has made it very difficult for individuals and families throughout San Diego County. One group that has dedicated themselves to helping our neighbors without judgment during this pandemic is We All We Got SD. This is a grassroots group of San Diegans who believe that providing aid to other people is about solidarity, not charity. Since March, this collective has been hosting food distribution to help those experience marginalized communities and those most vulnerable and suffering the greatest from the impacts of COVID-19. We All We Got SD has been raising the funds, getting the food, hosting distribution event every week. On Thursday, people can pull up to the Brown building located at 4133 Poplar Street, starting at 1:30 p.m. Until the available food runs out. What makes this group special is their commitment to not casting judgment on others. They are a welcoming group that focus on supporting all, but particularly our Black and Brown communities, Indigenous, disabled, undocumented, LGBTQIA+, single mothers, and our elders. We All We Got SD has benefited many in our community because this is a group of individuals who have come together around a single cause, and because of them and because of their efforts, many San Diegans are better off. This effort would not be possible without the incredible contributions of the co-founders, Christina Griffin-Jones and DJ Kutton-Kandi, who we will hear from momentarily, along with all the core members of this group, Karina Frost-Moreno, Jennifer Frost-Moreno, Kelsey Daniels, Ana Laura Martinez, Blair Overstreet, Oren Robinson, Mohammed Elnab, Maria Obama, Ismahan Abdullah, and so many others. And we extend our deepest thanks and appreciation to all of you. And so with that, on behalf of Chairman Greg Cox and all the members of the Board of Supervisors, we commend We All We Got SD for their outstanding service, leadership, and commitment to supporting all the residents, and declare this 27th day of October to be We All We Got SD Day throughout San Diego County. I'd now like to turn it over to Christina, who I believe is here to make a few remarks.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Fletcher. And thank you, Chairman Greg Cox. My name is Christina Griffin-Jones. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'd also like to acknowledge that the land that we are on and that is called San Diego County, it is not its original name. This is land that belongs to folks of the Kumeyaay Nation. I wanna lift up that the reason that we do what we do and We All We Got is because we are the folks who are constantly in need of this help in this time. And we do it in the spirit of being able to lift up folks in our community who were harmed by lack of access to food and lack of access to justice, right? Like Alfredo Longo, Aaliyah Jenkins, Muna Curry, Monique Clark, and Richard Price. I'd like to pass it over to my dear friend and colleague, DJ Kutton-Kandi.
Hi, thank you so much, Supervisor Nathan Fletcher, for this proclamation, and to the rest of the County Board of Supervisors. My name is Candy, pronouns she, hers. On behalf of We All We Got, we are honored to receive this recognition, as we believe that in a time of great need, we are in solidarity together, aligned by our principles. We are inspired by the work of other organizers across the country and the world that have been doing mutual aid without even calling it a mutual aid, learned from Indigenous peoples to my Lola from the Philippines, to the Black Panther Party's free breakfast program, to amazing organizers coordinated by disability justice folks throughout California during the fires last year, and to Indigenous organizer journalist Kelly Hayes out in Chicago, to my good friend Ashley Henderson, where we based our principles from and our practices. Mutual aid, thank you for mentioning this. It's about solidarity, not charity. It's about justice and building power. It's about autonomy and agency. It's more than just survival, but about a community care. It's about prioritizing the most vulnerable in our communities. It's about redistributing the needs of our communities. It's about finding out solutions together, because all we got is us. So it's about building the world we want through collective power and action. We are out here building power and movement, building for our freedom. Thank you for this recognition, and thank you to all the people around the world doing mutual aid every single day.
Very good. Thank you, Supervisor Fletcher, and congratulations, Christina and Candy. We'll move on now to public communications. It's my understanding that there are no public communications, so we'll proceed on to the approval of the statements of proceedings and the minutes for the meeting of October 13th, 2020, of the Board of Supervisors, the Air Pollution Control District, meeting of October 14th, 2020. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Supervisor Jacob, seconded by Vice Chair Desmond. Is there any discussion? If not, would the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you. Chairman Cox,
Aye.
Supervisor Jacob,
Aye.
Supervisor Gaspar,
Aye.
Supervisor Fletcher,
Fletcher, aye.
Vice Chairman Desmond.
Aye.
Chairman Cox, the motion passes unanimously with all board members being present and voting aye.
Very good. We'll move on now to the formation of the consent calendar. All items on the agenda today will be considered a part of the consent calendar unless there's a desire on the part of the public or members of the board to pull items for further discussion. It's my understanding that we will have a staff presentation on item number 3. We will also have a staff presentation on item number 4 and item number 5. Items 6 and 7 will be heard together with the staff presentation. And I also understand staff has some additional comments that they'll need to make on item number 22. Having said that, Mr. Clerk, are there additional items that have been pulled by the public?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you covered it, but for the members of the board, item 3 has been pulled by the public. Item 4 has been pulled by the public, and item 5 has been pulled by the public. As you noted, items 6 and 7 will be heard concurrently, and item 2 has been pulled for some comments by the Chief Financial Officer.
Item 22, right?
22, correctly. Item 22, correct. And item 31, or closed session matters, will be considered at the conclusion of the board's public session. All the remaining items on the Board of Supervisors agenda, as well as the County of San Diego Air Pollution Control Board, may be placed in the consent calendar for your board's consideration.
Okay, let me start with my colleagues, starting with Supervisor Jacob. Do you have any additional items to pull?
Good morning.
Or comments to make?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple comments on first item number 9. Item number 9 is really a welcome news. It authorizes our Department of General Services to move forward with a request for proposal for affordable senior housing on 2 parcels in Ramona that we recently purchased. This is a badly needed project for the community, and senior housing has always been a part of the vision for the Ramona Intergenerational Community Campus. The intent, though, is to have a senior center included in the project along with the affordable senior housing. Therefore, I want to make sure that the senior center component is spelled out in the recommendation today so that any potential bidder is fully aware of that. So I would, on consent, I'd like to add to recommendation number 2. So at the end, it would read, to include an affordable senior housing use and a senior center. And then at the end of recommendation 3, to add for the development of affordable senior housing and a senior center. So if that's acceptable to the board, I'd just like to add that to the recommendation. And then just a comment on items 14, 15, and 27. These are items I've brought before the board. Provides critical funding at a critical time to businesses, community nonprofits, and public agencies. In total, over $3.3 million is being allocated from the District 2 Small Business Stimulus Grant Program, Neighborhood Reinvestment Program, and the Community Enhancement Program. Not only are we making investments in much needed community improvements, we're keeping people in their jobs, creating new jobs, helping businesses and nonprofits survive, and giving a boost to the economy. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of the consent agenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor Jacob. We'll move on now to Supervisor Gaspar.
I'll second that motion, Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, any additional comments?
No.
Okay, we'll move on now to Supervisor Fletcher.
Thank you, Chair. I have comments on 3 items. I want to start with item number 1. While I recognize this is a routine annual report to the Board of Supervisors, and this certainly falls in the purview of the sheriff's authority to make his own decisions, I am concerned. We have a recurring habit of viewing our correctional system as an entity designed to hook up for-profit entities and contractors with how they can make money off of the system. The purpose of our system is to ensure justice to protect the public, but also to facilitate rehabilitation. And in the process of facilitating rehabilitation, it is a vital component that those that are incarcerated be able to stay in contact with those outside, maybe their children, their family, their loved ones. And when we charge them 35 cents a minute to make a phone call, we are disincentivizing that connection we need. And all of these individuals in our county system will be released at some point. None of them are going to stay there for life. And so if they're going to be released, we ought to be taking efforts to facilitate their reintegration. And a part of that is maintaining those bonds and those connections. Now, I'm guessing no one on this board pays 35 cents a minute to make a phone call. And we do it under the guise of, well, we need to support and pay for the rehabilitation services, but we pay for all kinds of things. We're going to consider all kinds of things today that we ought to be paying for. And if we truly believe in rehabilitation, we would find the way to be able to fund the very modest cost associated with rehabilitation without putting an undue tax and penalty on the families of those who are incarcerated. I would also point out that today we're going to hear an item on the same consent calendar to defer fees on businesses because they can't afford to pay during COVID. But at the same time, we're putting this burden on the families. Folks who are incarcerated don't have any money to pay. So it is the families, primarily low income, primarily people of color, who have to shoulder a burden so that a private contractor can make money off of our correctional system. A Union Tribune report on this issue found that while phone call costs have dropped in state prisons because the federal government has put limits on it, it hasn't happened here. If the justice system decided that an individual needed to pay a financial penalty or fine because of their crime, then the judge would have imposed that on them. And I just think this further perpetuates the burden and cycle that we do. This board took action, which I thought was good, to waive juvenile fees. We didn't think the family should have to pay for something the juveniles have done, but yet we are going to put this burden on them. I support the rehabilitation programs. I think we should continue to pay for them. I just think we should pay for them and not put this burden on the families. Other counties have opted out of this. There's an ongoing effort at the state to try and address this issue. But I just wanted to register a no vote and that I'm opposed to this approach in concept. And I think that the rehabilitation services are certainly worth paying for. And I would just remind us all that we end up paying for the lack of rehabilitation ourselves. And I don't think the burden should be borne by the family. Item 8 is asking our board to approve new funding over $9.5 million over 5 years, a grant from the U.S. Center for Disease Control to support local efforts to end the HIV epidemic. This is a good thing, and this new funding will go a long way to supporting the activities that will assist our county in our Getting to Zero initiative. This includes strategies identified by our county public health staff, our community partners, with the goal of ending the HIV epidemic in San Diego County by 2026. As of the end of last year, an estimated 13,883 people were living with HIV in San Diego County. In 2019, there were 368 newly diagnosed HIV cases in San Diego. That is a decrease of 26% from 2016. But despite the reduction, HIV continues to be a major public health concern with the average of one new HIV diagnosis every day in San Diego County. We can do better. We can get that down, and the Getting to Zero is not a slogan. It is a specific goal of getting to zero. And in order to do that, we have to implement all of the components: test, treat, prevent, engage, improve. And this grant will help us expand our services, expand our program, add 7 full-time positions in public health services to work on these programs. And I think this is a positive step forward for us as a county. The last item, I'd like to register a no vote on item 1 and also item 23. I know that we routinely approve our legislative program, but it struck me as I read through it, there are some things in here that I think are inconsistent with some other efforts that we're taking as a county. I think it would, probably be more appropriate to work on this and have this come back at the beginning of the year to really set the tone and agenda for the coming year. But as you read through here, there's some things in here, some really jumped out at me: supporting legislation requiring presentation of proof of citizenship when you go vote. even though that there's no indication in California this has been a problem with people voting who weren't citizens. I have full faith in our registrar of voters. I think they run and administer a voter registration system and voting system that is there that I don't think we need to do. At the same time, when we're talking about trying to change our approach and attitude and provide drug treatment services, we have things in here supporting legislation to deny eligibility for relief to those convicted of drug offenses. Well, if you were convicted of a drug offense and you've served your time, I think we want you to find rehabilitation and restoration. And we're going to support legislation to deny those efforts. There's legislation in here around federal border agencies detaining drivers under the influence, which is a local issue that should fall on the burden. 10 years ago, I worked on legislation to say Border Patrol couldn't do these types of things. And so there's just a number of things in here where we're telling Mexico what they should do around the consumption of drugs. There's the part in here about opposing legislation to limit the ability to not consider criminal convictions. There are some criminal convictions that once you finished your time are a barrier to entry in the workforce. And so I think we probably need a little refresh on that. I think some of these are inconsistent with some board policies we've adopted. So I would register a no vote on item 23.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor. We'll move on now to Vice Chairman Jim Desmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no items to pull. I just wanted to make a couple comments. Also on item 8, this is the authorization to accept the HIV/AIDS Services Grant funding agreement and authorization to apply for additional funding. The work and accomplishments of Getting to Zero initiative is to be commended. I think this is a great opportunity to expand prevention services and continue to serve this population in need. I am, though, concerned also about our budget moving forward and after COVID, what the financial system will look like here in San Diego County. However, I do believe that we need to be mindful in hiring the 7 staff positions, which I'm okay with, that we do so with the caveat that these positions are based on continued grant funding as per our own policies for funding and hiring positions. So I want to make that comment on item 8. On item 12, this is maintaining business stability through the COVID-19 crisis. I want to thank Supervisor Gaspar for partnering with me on this item. The original fee deferral program was unanimously voted on March 24th of 2020 to defer fees associated with permitting and rent payments on county leased land and to help businesses impacted by COVID-19. The program is set to expire, and due to the ongoing impacts associated with COVID and the resulting business closures and restrictions, today's action will extend the program until March 31st of 2020. Also, I want to make a brief comment on item 23, which is the legislative programs. I sit on the San Onofre outreach committee representing the County of San Diego, and I do note that there is a item here to support legislation that would remove and relocate outside of San Diego region the spent nuclear fuel that is now being stored at San Onofre, to remove that fuel at the decommissioned San Onofre generating station, in my words, as soon as possible. So I want to just register those comments, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I have no additional comments to make or items to pull, so I'll ask the clerk to go ahead and identify those items we'll be voting on the consent calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The items that have been pulled for discussion this morning are items 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Again, those will be heard concurrently. And item 22 and item 31 are closed session matters.
Very good. We do have a motion by Supervisor Jacob, seconded by Supervisor Gaspar to approve the consent calendar. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that motion, item 10 introduces an ordinance amending section 84.101 of the San Diego Administrative Code relating to the First 5 Commission of San Diego, sections 232.4 and 233 of Article 15 relating to the Health and Human Services Agency, and sections 397.1, 397.3, and 397.5 of Article 22A relating to the Office of the Public Administrator and Public Guardian in the County of San Diego. Item 18 introduces an ordinance amending Section 340.9 of the San Diego County Code of Administrative Ordinances pertaining to the duties of the Citizens Law Enforcement Review Board. With that, Chairman Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Jacob.
Aye.
Supervisor Gaspar.
Aye.
Supervisor Fletcher.
Fletcher, aye, with no vote on items 1 and 23.
Thank you. Vice Chairman Desmond.
Aye.
And that motion includes amendments to the recommendations 2 and 3 on item 9, and as Supervisor Fletcher noted, a no vote on item 1 and 23. Mr. Chairman, the remaining items pass unanimously with all board members being present and voting aye.
Thank you, Mr. Potter. What I would propose to do now is we have some speakers on items 3, 4, and 5, and I think the order that I would take those in would be first item 3, where we have 6 speakers, item 5, where we have 3 speakers, and then item 4, where we have 34 speakers, and then the remaining items are presentations by staff. So with that, let me go ahead and call up item number 3, which is to receive an update on the COVID-19 response, ratify actions, adopt a resolution, approve implementation of fully funded capital projects that were put on hold due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and authorize any other action necessary to address the COVID-19 pandemic. In order to get started in this item, I'm going to call on Don Stroyer to begin the discussion. He'll be followed by Dr. Wooten and Ebony Shelton.
Before Mr. Stroyer begins, any members of the public that have requested to speak in this item, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you, and you will be muted until it is your turn to speak. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Cox and members of the board. We have continued to successfully maintain our status on California's COVID-19 blueprint for a safe reopening, resulting in the continued opening of a variety of non-essential businesses. Today's presentation will feature our Public Health Officer, Dr. Wilma Wooten, who will provide an update on public health, as well as the county's status on the state's tiered system and what that looks like locally. We'll also be joined by Ebony Shelton, our Chief Financial Officer, who will provide an update on the economic impacts of COVID-19 in our region. Without further ado, I welcome Dr. Wooten.
Thank you, Don. Good morning, Chairman Cox and members of the board. On this slide, we show the EPI curve, which is illustrated by illness onset. As is shown, starting in the middle of June, we saw a sharp increase in cases, which was due to reopening of businesses and other operations on June 12th. In mid-July, a brisk decline in cases was seen after restrictions were imposed by the state. Cases leveled off in mid-August and then began to slightly increase, where cases ranged from over 200 to over 300 cases daily. On August 31st, the blueprint for a safer economy was introduced, with certain sectors opening at modified levels. Since this time, cases have mostly remained or ranged from 200 to 325 cases daily, with a couple of excursions below and above this range. Of note, the bar in the upper right is the 14-day incubation period for COVID-19, so more cases are expected during this time. Since the last presentation to your board on October 13th, an additional 4,195 cases have been reported for a total of 54,941 positive COVID-19 cases as of 11:59 on Sunday, October 25th. This table provides a summary of these cases with a breakdown by age, gender, hospitalizations, ICU admissions, and deaths. The age range of cases remains constant from 0 to 102 years of age. 62% of the cases are in the Latinx population. The 20 to 49-year-old age group remains at 58%, or 31,653 cases of the total number. 28,167, or 51% of the cases, are female, and 49% are male. There's 141 individuals for which we have no gender information identified. Almost 4,000, or 7% of cases, have been hospitalized. 892 of the those hospitalized have been admitted to the ICU, and this number is approximately 2% of the total number of cases and 23% of the total number of those hospitalized. The total number of cases includes 870 deaths, or 1.6% of the total number of cases. And of this number, 830 or 95% have had an underlying medical condition. The remaining 40 or 5% did not have any medical conditions. The top 3 categories for underlying medical conditions include hypertension, diabetes, and heart disease. When we look at the state of California as a whole, San Diego County is projected to remain in the red Tier 2. This slide shows how San Diego County compares with other counties across the state. Also today, county staff has calculated the adjusted case rate for the 7-day period of October 11 through October 17 after a 7-day lag to be 6.5, which again keeps us in the red tier. A testing positivity at 3.1%, which is the orange tier, and a health equity testing positivity at 5.1%, also in the red tier. As shared previously, the state's monitoring system includes 3 core metrics: the case rate, testing positivity, and the health equity metric. As a reminder, the health equity metric evaluates the testing positivity of areas that are in the least healthy quartile of the county. On October 13th, the state updated its median testing rate to 239.21. In 2 weeks, the state median testing rate will again be updated. For this week, the county's testing rate was calculated to be 309.3, far above the state's median testing rate. In the county testing rate, if it is above the overall state median testing rate, the county case rate is adjusted to a lower case rate, as is the situation for San Diego County this week at 6.5. However, if the county testing rate is below the state median testing rate, the unadjusted case rate is adjusted to a higher rate. Based on the county calculations for these 3 core components or metrics, San Diego County continues to be in Tier 2, or the red tier. The state is expected to publicly post its state metric calculations for this week by 12 noon today. As we continue to monitor the state metrics, it is important to remember that these preventive strategies, washing your hands, keeping 6 feet apart from others, wearing a face covering, avoiding crowds and large gatherings or parties, and staying home if you are sick, are critically important in determining the future local course of the COVID-19 pandemic until a vaccine is available to achieve herd immunity. These strategies directly impact the testing positivity rate and the case rate, and are evidence-based best practices to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Also, decreasing these metrics help to keep San Diego County in the red tier or Tier 2, and will help move our county in the future to less restrictive tiers 3 and 4. By everyone doing their part to decrease testing positivity and the number of cases in San Diego County, we can progress to, again, less restrictive tiers, which will increase the county's chance of reopening more sectors. However, if additional sectors reopen in the future, everyone must continue to be vigilant to practice the proven preventive strategies, which will help to control the number of new cases, hospitalizations, deaths, and outbreaks. In closing, please remember how far we have come and where we do not want to return. Now, we have more sectors open with more people on the freeways going to work and other locations, but we still do recommend telecommuting where possible. Before, movement restrictions were in place with very little traffic on the freeways. Now we have the opportunity to enjoy indoor and outdoor dining. Before, we had more restrictions such as outdoor dining only and less opportunities to enjoy the activities San Diego County has to offer. We want to avoid moving to Tier 1 or the purple tier, where we will be in the same situation as we were before, just a few months ago. Everyone must continue to do their part to slow the spread of COVID-19 by wearing face coverings, maintaining social distance, avoiding large groups of crowds, and not going to work or school if you are sick. Only through these efforts can we decrease the number of COVID-19 cases and look to opening more sectors responsibly and safely. I would like to thank the public for their continued vigilance to help keep our communities healthy, safe, and thriving. Now please welcome Ebony Shelton, Chief Financial Officer.
Thank you. Chairman Cox, members of the board, in early September, a panelist of experts presented a holistic overview of the health of the San Diego County region in relation to the COVID-19 pandemic. The updated numbers on this slide are again provided by the San Diego Association of Governments, or SANDAG, and they illustrate the dramatic impact the pandemic has had not only on employment, with approximately 180,000 out of work, but also other important indicators of our region's economic health. Since the last update to your board in early September, there has been a slight improvement to unemployment figures, the region's 2020 Gross Regional Product Outlook, which measures the size and health of our local economy, and the outlook for taxable sales, with all other indicators remaining unchanged. Although we've seen significant improvements from our original forecast because of economic stimulus, a complete recovery is still anticipated to take time, with full recovery expected by 2024. Airport travel is still down 75%, with business travel still down an unheard of 95%. Tourists and residents continue to make fewer visits to our local attractions and businesses. All told, in 2020, San Diego expects to see a $10 to $15 billion loss in our economy and $5 to $7 billion in taxable sales declines. These numbers are very similar to the Great Recession of 2009. A full update on the county's financial position for the current year, including the 19-20 financial statements, will be presented to your board in December as a part of our first quarter budget status report. As a primer to that, we'll discuss a few indicators in more detail and how these improvements will factor into the county's financial outlook in the next few slides. But first, we'll focus more on unemployment. San Diego's latest unemployment rate for the month of September was reported at 9%, which is a decrease from 9.9% reported in the month of August and the high of 15.2% that we saw in May. San Diego employment continues to be more favorable than the state overall, but lags behind the national unemployment rate of 7.9%. Focusing more in detail on San Diego unemployment trends, according to SANDAG, we've seen improvements from the last update to the board in the area of retail, healthcare, as well as finance and insurance and real estate. And we've seen a slight worsening in the tourism industry. Notably, tourism, retail, and education represent 80% of all newly unemployed workers. And unlike other parts of the state, which are suffering from losses in government jobs, our region is seeing modest growth in this sector, which is good news. Joblessness in our region impacts the demand for safety net services. When looking at the self-sufficiency benefit programs that are administered by the county, since the onset of the pandemic, we've seen a significant increase in the number of individuals receiving health care benefits through Medi-Cal coverage. It's up 12% since last January and rising. And similarly, we saw an initial spike in food assistance through CalFresh benefits, up 29% since January and holding steady. The CalWorks Job Assistance Program was on a downward trajectory in 2019. Job losses due to the pandemic caused a sharp incline in March that lasted until June. The numbers have been going down since then as people are finding new work, but are still just back to levels where we were a year ago. General relief or cash assistance also saw a pandemic-induced spike and a return to last year's levels. Since the onset of the pandemic, we've seen a significant increase in the number of individuals receiving health care, food, job assistance, and cash benefits. Our Access Call Center has received almost 20% more calls than usual, and we've received almost 16% more applications for benefit programs. That's nearly 262,000 applications to help families in need. Since January, our eligibility team has been able to serve more than 161,000 new recipients. The region has also experienced additional impacts in the area of behavioral health, which Dr. Luke will provide a separate update on later today. We will continue to monitor all of these programs in the coming months as household needs change along with the economy. The impact of COVID-19 on the region and the county's response to the pandemic is estimated to have a significant fiscal impact on county finances, both by increasing expenses and diminishing revenue. However, we now have access to more real-time economic data and have seen more favorable trends with impacts not as severe as originally anticipated, due in part to the impact of economic stimulus. In our update to you in the spring, we were anticipating significant market losses in the retirement fund, roughly a 7% loss. Although the fund did not meet its targeted return of 7%, the final results were not as bad as expected, and the fund earned 1.1%. On the revenue side, we anticipated our largest revenue shortfall to be in the area of sales tax revenue, which supports a variety of critical services provided by the county, including social services, child protective services, behavioral health and public health programs, as well as critical public safety services. We have seen less severe impacts as a direct result of increases to online shopping, particularly offsetting declines in sales tax receipts from brick and mortar sales. In addition, we've experienced a lower delinquency rate on property taxes than what was originally anticipated. The full financial impact of these improvements is being actively analyzed and modeled and will be presented to your board as a part of our first quarter budget status report. But in the meantime, there are some actions that we recommend be taken now to support our local economy and advance county initiatives. In May, your board adopted the 2020-25 Capital Improvement Needs Assessment Program, which included a recommendation to pause 19 fully funded capital projects due to financial uncertainty. These 19 projects with funding of $37 million would address multiple program areas, including parks, land acquisition for fire stations, and the Ramona Intergenerational Community Campus. As a result of improvements to our financial condition, today we are recommending that your board approve amendments to the CENA to allow for the implementation of these individual projects. Back to you, Don.
Thank you, Ebony. In addition to receiving this update, we recommend your board take the following actions with respect to this item. Ratify all actions previously taken in response to this local health emergency and local emergency. Adopt a resolution of the Board of Supervisors, the County of San Diego regarding COVID-19 actions by state and local government. Approve implementation of the 19 fully funded capital projects put on hold due to the initial uncertainty of the county's financial burden related to the pandemic, and take any other action necessary to address the COVID-19 pandemic emergency response. Subject to your questions, this concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Don and Ebony and Dr. Wooten for your presentation. It's my understanding we have 8 speakers, public speakers on this item, but before we get to them, let me ask if any of my colleagues have any questions for the speakers.
I don't have a question, Chairman, but I'd like to make a comment, actually a compliment to our staff this morning. I actually visited the Cal State San Marcos testing site yesterday and arrived a couple minutes after the scheduled close time. I just wanted to say how grateful I am for the county's testing program. Not only did they take us into the queue a couple minutes after they were scheduled to be closed, that testing site operates like a well-oiled machine. Moving through that testing site in a matter of 10 minutes, in the door, out the door. I just want you guys to know you're doing a phenomenal job with the testing here in San Diego. Hats off to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Supervisor Gaspar. Any other comments from my colleagues? Yes. Supervisor Desmond?
Well, I have some comments I'll make after the speakers come forward, but I just would like to thank the staff and Ebony Shelton for giving us a economic update. I think, you know, there's many different facets to this, to COVID here, not only the health aspects and really kind of the shocking how tourism in San Diego County has been hit the hardest. And you know, it still is a large factor of living here in San Diego County, and that education has still lost many jobs in that sector as well. So those two items were kind of telling. But I just want to say thank you very much for the update and the economic update. And I'd like to ask at least maybe every other month if we could get the economic updates. I realize we don't have to have it as often as maybe the health in numbers, but if we could have, you know, every other month an update on the economy and how COVID's affecting that, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Vice Chairman Desmond. Any other comments, questions? Okay, let's go ahead and proceed then to the public communication speakers. Mr. Potter, would you go ahead and call up the first speaker?
Thank you, Chairman Cox. I'll note for the record that we received 3 e-comments on this item. We have 6 callers on the line to address the board. And as a reminder for the callers, if you do not wish to speak on this item, please hang up and call back when the board begins discussion of the next item. We'll be calling speakers by the last 4 digits of their phone number. You'll hear a notification that your call has been unmuted. You will then need to press *6 to unmute your phone. Each caller will be asked to state their name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. You'll hear this sound when your time is up, so please conclude your comments at that time. I would remind the public speakers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. Erin, if you could please identify the first caller, please.
Yes, thank you. Our first caller is 4978.
Yes, good morning, board members. This is Richard Golden. I'm calling from El Cajon. I am calling to give a solution to help with the economic fallout from COVID-19. I will reiterate what Supervisor Gasper said. I'm grateful to the frontline staff and all testing personnel for their hard work. The number one way that we have to suppress and contain the virus is through personal responsibility, and the 6 items that the health officer goes over at every brief all the time. I'm calling to address the need for better targeted, coordinated surveillance testing for early isolation and early contact tracing. With pre-symptomatic spread, this is our best option to help eliminate chains of transmission of the virus and get it under control and contained, and it's currently being underutilized. I have submitted outlines of plans for all the many moving parts of this endeavor. Somebody could coordinate having that stuff done at the county-run test centers. The immediate focus would be on air travel and Indian reservation casinos, with focus expanding as testing capability allows. On a 2-minute call, I cannot go into long details of a massive operation like this, but I will give my email contact information to OES personnel, all supervisors, and Dr. McDonald one more time. I currently do not have Dr. Wooten's contact. We need to better utilize this resource to help suppress and contain the virus. Only when the virus is suppressed and contained can we reopen safely forever and alleviate the public health and economic damage. I will be available to answer any phone call, any questions via phone call or email. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 2465. 2465.
Good morning. My name is Edie Johnson. On September 22nd, a special Board of Supervisors meeting was held ostensibly to ask for local control. Here we are 5 weeks later. From my vantage point, I haven't seen any significant action advocating on behalf of San Diego residents. Nonetheless, there is good news. We have a cumulative 8 weeks of increased total tests from when that metric became tracked by the state. COVID-19 deaths are approximately half of what they were just 8 weeks ago. But yes, we keep teetering against going into tier number 1. However, there was also sad news. Yesterday, 10 News' Michael Chen reported that an 11-year-old Carlsbad boy, Jesse, took an estimated 400 ibuprofen pills in a suspected suicide attempt brought on by social isolation. So I ask you, what have you done to prevent any additional Jessies? Cases of abuse, whether child, elderly, or spousal, divorce, bankruptcy, delayed diagnoses due to fear. We have continuously improved our numbers only to have Sacramento change the rules. How long are we going to play Sacramento's game? Please advocate for local control and a clear tier for California. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 6784. 6784.
Good morning. My name is Marty Martinez. At one of the last board meetings, I believe I heard a statement about herd immunity of COVID-19 through the use of vaccines and the concerns the public has about these vaccines. I share these concerns, and these are three of my concerns. First, the requirement for animal testing has been waived. According to Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., nephew of U.S. President John F. Kennedy, nearly 10 years ago, 4 of the best coronavirus vaccines were selected and tested on animals. Initially, the animals showed a good response, but when exposed to the wild virus, they all died of inflammation in all their organs. Animal tests are critical. Second, vaccine makers, doctors, and healthcare practitioners have been granted almost complete release of liability. This was done in 1986 and was made even stronger in 2005. If a vaccine injury occurs, then as I understand, you are on your own to sue the government, the American taxpayer. As I understand, a class action lawsuit is not an option. Vaccines have essentially become liability-free products. Third, as I understand, our own government and the vaccine companies have entered into private-public partnerships, not subject to the Freedom of Information Act. This requires an investigation. Also, some of the top decision makers seem to have many conflicts of interest with patents on viruses, stock ownership in companies leading the vaccine effort, and in some cases, service on the boards of these companies. These are three serious concerns, and we should stop and investigate before using an experimental vaccine that might be 50% effective against what seems to be a very treatable illness. So what's the emergency that warrants ignoring these concerns? I say the only emergency we have are elected officials who have breached their oath to support and defend the Constitution and who allow the use of questionable tests looking for positive results that are not indicative of an illness and lead to the infringement of individual liberties. We have the only government in the world that is a government of we, the people, and with all due respect, you, the board, are public servants to the people. Therefore, I request that next week, the San Diego County Board of Supervisors provide the data and the evidence that shows there is still a health emergency in San Diego County. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 9288.
Yes, hi, my name is Dean. I just want to
Good morning, this is 9288.
I think we have a couple different callers who both joined at the same time. So let's proceed with 9288, please, and then we'll come back to 5810. Thank you.
Thank you. 9288, thank you. Good morning, County Supervisors. My name is Rick Bauer, owner of a special event company called Kennedy and Associates. We're established in 1974 here in San Diego County, and we manage street fairs for a living. Some may recall I've called in to the county meetings a few times regarding our business as well as other business shutdowns. And we need to open up safely, please, in desperation. We are also a recipient of the stimulus grant, and for that, we are greatly appreciate the board's decision to approve us. Today, however, I want to focus on a follow-up on a conversation that took place September 15th board meeting between Supervisor Desmond and Dr. Wooten. A recorded confirmation showed that Supervisor Desmond requested that street fairs be allowed to be approved in the same category as current approved large crowd, I may add, events such as swap meets and, of course, farmers market, just like the farmers market that is currently being held weekly at a San Diego County property in Vista, California. Dr. Wooten's September 15th responses indicated that she had been in the process in the past week reviewing such a request to allow street fairs to be approved. She stated she was exploring with the state and running the question up to the state. Dr. Wooten also stated that she recognized that it, meaning street fairs, could be like a swap meet. Further, she stated she is reviewing one plan so that she is exploring the possibility of allowing street fairs to be approved and to be allowed to be open, close quotes. That was certainly encouraging to hear from Dr. Wooten, and I agree with her. Street fairs are just like swap meets and farmers market, yet street fairs are closed and the others are open. For the record, I would like to know how I can get a decision about this topic, a favorable decision, please. Our company and many other small businesses that we represent are on the brink of closing down due to street fair closures. Perhaps Dr. Wooten can reply to my inquiry through Super Desmond's office, and I in turn can contact his office. I'm always available to discuss our street fair safety protocols that I have authored and published since April 2020. Appreciate all your time. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll go to 5810. 5810. You may need to press *6 to unmute yourself.
Sorry, some technical difficulties there. Yeah, hi, my name is Dean. Thanks everyone for allowing time for public comments. I want to ask the question to the board. I want to know, how would you know if you are on the right or wrong side of history? You know, you have these meetings every 2 weeks and you reflect the numbers, you report, they go up or down, but you can't point to any life that you have saved. You haven't saved my life. You haven't saved anybody else's life. And you have millions and millions of people in this state who want to go back to their life as normal and not participate into this medical tyranny that you guys are helping usher in. Let me repeat. You all look around the room, with the exception of Jim Desmond, are helping usher in medical tyranny and medical fascism in our state, helping in the country and in the world. Do you know the parable of Chicken Little, right? The sky is falling. Well, there was a chicken who had acorns dropped on his head by a fox and was convinced that the sky was falling. So you got all the chickens and they all ran around and they all got really scared. And what happened? They all go right into the fox's den and get eaten. What are the odds that what you're doing right now is playing that game of Chicken Little? There's a reason that nothing like this has ever happened in the world, and there's a reason why the United States and this state has never taken any kind of measures as totally insane as what's happening right now. You all took an oath of office to protect the Constitution. The Constitution says that you do not deprive a citizen of life, liberty, or property without due process. Where is the due process here? Executive fiat from the one guy who happens to be the governor today is not due process. You all helping him close businesses, destroy lives is not due process. I know about 10 people who have got sick from COVID and recovered, including my parents. One of my friends went to the hospital with it. All of them are fine. Well, now I know my first suicide. I know my first death that's not COVID related, okay? And that blood is on your hands. So ask yourself, how do you know if you're on the right side of history? Well, here's a litmus test. Are you causing harm? Are you causing pain? How many times have I woken up with my partner crying during this pandemic? Everybody knows this is a scam. Nobody's talking about being afraid of the virus. They're afraid of their government. They're afraid of you for not asking questions, for living in your media bubbles and not going deep into the problem. Read the Great Barrington Declaration. Pay attention to other sources of media. Everything is being censored. Why do you need to censor if you're not hiding something? Ask yourself that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 3343. 3343. This is our final caller on the line right now. 3343.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. So hi, I am Teresa, San Diego resident. So I'd like to ask, when did 2 weeks to slow the spread go from ensuring our hospitals will not be overwhelmed to trying to prevent people from getting a virus that the CDC admits has a 99% survival rate? As you may know, our governor went to court last week. Legislator Kevin Kiley challenged the constitutionality of his one-man rule. We are awaiting a decision soon, as well as decision on a similar mask lawsuit. So I understand you have a hierarchy in your jobs. At the top is the governor, who you are told you have to listen to. I know about hierarchies too. I used to work at Boeing. As you likely know, with the 737 MAX incident, the company is not doing so well. As an engineer specializing in safety and risk management, I brought data and metrics to the executive director. However, the director told me to keep silent and not share my findings with the FAA and threatened to fire me if I spoke up. The director would rather have suffering and calamity than to admit wrong. Unable to live with myself, I left the company. I left my high-paying job, all the nice benefits, the pension, and everything. Now, I don't know, maybe the governor is threatening your jobs, threatening your reputation. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors. As frustrated as I am with what's going on, I do not believe any of you in the room are stupid. I think you're smart people. You can think for yourselves. I think you either are too afraid to go against the governor or afraid to lose your paychecks, but I do believe you know what you're doing. And I just have a question for you. Is it worth it? Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes public testimony on this item, Chairman Cox.
Okay, thank you very much. We do appreciate the public speakers on this item. We do have 5 recommendations before us. I would go ahead and move for approval of the recommendations of our Chief Administrative Officer.
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Supervisor Gaspar. Comments by my colleagues. Vice Chairman Desmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And once again, I wanted to say thank you to Ebony and getting us the economic update. You know, and as we hear from our callers, you know, it continues to be frustrating to see hundreds of thousands of people funnel through grocery stores and big box stores every weekend, while street fairs, as a caller called in, family entertainment centers and Legoland can't operate. Today, the last weekend, I took a ride. I did the bike ride around the South Bay, Chairman Cox. It was a great time. It was an electric bike, but it was 25 miles. It was well spent. But as I went through one of our southern cities, it looked like a street fair was going on. But apparently it was called a farmer's market, yet you could buy just about anything besides food at this supposed farmer's market. And we do operate one up here in Vista. So it's very frustrating, and there continues to be inconsistencies from the state. We were told to lower our positivity rate. Our businesses can't open until we do so. But then last week, the state allowed indoor museums to open at 25%, which is good, and rock climbing walls and hot tubs. Yet, you know, the state is picking winners and losers, allowing certain businesses to operate. You know, how can a rock climbing facility be open safely, which I agree they should be open, but bowling alleys or gyms cannot be open any more than gyms, particularly at 10%. We need accurate numbers and not predictions. Last month, Dr. Galley stated there'd be a sharp increase in COVID-19 hospitalizations, but instead our hospitalizations have gone down over the last month. And unfortunately, the trust of the people continues to dwindle because of the lack of information and the lack of transparency, primarily coming from the state. I applaud all of our workers here in San Diego County. I applaud everybody that's doing a great job here. Dr. Wooten and all the staff, I think, are doing the best they can under what the edicts are coming from the state and the governor. We continue to be stuck in the red tier, barely in the red tier. It's a comfortable rut. While our positivity rates remain at 3%, and most importantly, our hospital bed capacity remains stable and actually with plenty of extra capacity. Yet our businesses continue to suffer. You know, we're supposed to be the land of opportunity. And all I've been asking for is for the governor to give us local control and the opportunity to allow businesses to open safely. I believe we can do that. We're the land of opportunity. We're the can do. Let's do it. Let's get it done. That's what being an American is all about, and we're being stymied. So on the COVID recommendations, I want to thank for the COVID resolution. I want to thank the staff for preparing the resolution. And by approving the resolution, we're taking a position to request that keep the regular consultations with the state. We're also requesting that the state incorporate our health officer's judgment and determination for the most effective measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in San Diego County. And they've been doing a great job at keeping our hospitalizations down and keeping people actually getting sick from the virus. We have many cases, but not that many people actually getting sick and going to the hospital. So lastly, we're also declaring that the state reopening blueprint should account for the hospital capacity data, which is part of the state's original criteria for opening. We are still at 5% or less COVID patients in our hospitals. I realize we've sent letters in the past, asking for local control. We've asked for many different things. We send it up to the state. I know we've sent the street fair issue up to the state, but we have to keep knocking until that door opens. And finally, recommendation number 3, this is the CENA. When the pandemic started, we were uncertain about the amount of money that it was going to take and how we would be reimbursed by the state or feds. We weren't sure where the dollars were coming from. So I think we took the responsible action of pausing several infrastructure projects that were shovel ready to ensure we had adequate funds to address COVID. Well, us taking this step here today shows that we do have the adequate funds to address COVID. We do have the capability, just like we have the personal protection equipment, just like we have the hospitalizations, just like we have the testing capacities. So now we'll be able to better handle our expenses in the pandemic. And I'm pleased to see that the additional funds for the 19 shovel-ready projects, actually it's not additional funds, it's just funds we put on hold. I want to thank staff for their hard work on this and for the economic data that was presented today. Just venting on the frustration, but I will be supporting the motion. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Desmond. Any other comments?
Yeah, Mr.
Supervisor
Chair.
Fletcher?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Most of the COVID updates are pretty benign, just general updates, but Supervisor Desmond did raise one issue that I want to comment on, which is I'm a little surprised that we would put $36 million of capital projects in a COVID update. This is where we discuss and debate our public health response to the coronavirus pandemic. We hear a lot about the economic impact. We hear a lot about the distress. We know that we are 2 months away from all of those CARES Act funds expiring. We certainly hope there's another federal CARES Act funding, but I don't know that we can count on that. So we're 2 months away from having no money for testing, for tracing, for treatment. We know the digital divide money is woefully inadequate and short, trying to get our kids connected to schools. We know we have significant needs for rental assistance, income replacement, our small businesses. Every one of our offices got exponentially more requests for help and assistance than we were able to fulfill. And I don't think it's appropriate that in the guise of a COVID update, we're allocating $36 million for parks. And I love parks, and parks are wonderful things. And all of these are great projects that in normal times we would do and probably not think twice about. But I think given the uncertainty around the federal CARES Act funding, I don't think it is wise or prudent to make a $36 million investment in capital projects at a time where there is all of this uncertainty. And so I would, Mr. Chair, request if you can take those items that separate, we could have a standalone vote on that item, and then we could do the rest of them as a batch, would be my preferred approach. But again, we're 2 months away from all the federal money expiring. Perhaps they will pass something new. Perhaps they won't. We don't know. But I just don't think now is the time that we should do that, given the economic uncertainty that we face and the tremendous need of so many folks who are out there, the tremendous disparity and inequity in which communities are suffering the most. And I think we ought to take that into account. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from my colleagues?
Yes, I would like to make a comment, Chairman. I want to make a comment about our kids. I believe that this is the population that's been given the least amount of consideration in the COVID-19 response and out of the governor's office. The comment I'd like to make is on the return to youth sports. The the state has been pretty much silent. It's my understanding at this point in time, the governor has issued a draft for youth sports guidance. It's appropriately in the hands of our staff right now. Not being privy to the document itself, I just wanted to make a general comment of the importance to argue on behalf of San Diego County in allowing gameplay to return within San Diego County. Because there has been no additional opportunity for kids to return to play, they're suffering physically, they're suffering mentally, and it's really important that we allow opportunities to resume. It was my understanding that these opportunities could perhaps be restored. However, the last check-in I received, the governor's office talked about the yellow tier being that first available opportunity because the state was concerned with the return of college sports and how well that was going. Please keep in mind, there's a major difference between our elementary schoolers, middle schoolers, high schoolers participating in sports and the likelihood of them becoming ill through these activities and what we're seeing in the college population. And that's because it's probably not the sport itself that's resulting in COVID-19 cases. It's probably the behaviors of these college kids outside of sporting events where they do participate in lots of parties, social events, and certainly that's very different when you have parents involved with kids at the high school level and the elementary school level. At this point in time, because kids need these activities, the parents see it with their kids rotting behind devices each and every day. The families are deciding to take their kids out of state. And they're going and taking them to Arizona for tournaments. They're going to Nevada, and they're going to Florida even. And there are very different standards across this country. And it seems as though a county like San Diego, who is excelling compared to a state like Arizona, it would be preferable that we keep our kids in county for play. That's a safer alternative. Please also keep in mind that it's not just the child that's going out of state, it's the entire family. And when they're out of state, that's a greater risk factor for them to return to San Diego and to spread the virus here as well. So I think we really need to argue heavily on behalf of San Diego County and our kids that we have to have opportunities, even if they're in-county opportunities only. Thank you.
Okay, and I believe Supervisor Jacob, you had some comments you wanted to make.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too found it a little strange to put the list of capital projects in the COVID update, but I understand the reasoning behind it. That first of all, I want to emphasize that these projects were all fully funded. The board supported the full funding of every one of these projects on the list. So it's not like we're looking for additional funding. The second point I want to make, I guess it's in here because they were put on pause because of the COVID situation that we're in. And now we know we can move forward with these. I see no reason not to move forward on these. It would be a huge mistake and be very, very wrong to pull the funding from each of these projects. And while we look at projects and we look at trying to promote business and jobs in the community, every one of these projects is going to put people to work and going to create jobs. So this is something that we anticipated in. It was only put on pause. It's fully funded. And however you want to do this, if you want to separate it out or whatever, I support it 100%.
Okay, we do have a request from Supervisor Fletcher to take separate action on item 4. Unless there's an objection, I would recommend we go ahead and vote on items 1, 2, 3, and 5. There's been a motion by myself and a second by Supervisor Gaspar, and then we'll come back and deal with item 4 separately. If there's no objection, would the clerk please go ahead and call the roll?
Thank you. Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Jacob?
Aye.
Supervisor Gaspar?
Aye.
Supervisor Fletcher?
Fletcher, aye.
Vice Chairman Desmond?
Aye.
Chairman Cox, that motion passes unanimously with all board members being present and voting aye.
Okay, we'll come back now to item 4, which is to approve the implementation of the capital projects put on hold due to the pandemic. We still have a motion by myself and seconded by Supervisor Gaspar. If there's no further discussion, would the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you. Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Supervisor Jacob?
Aye.
Supervisor Gaspar?
Aye.
Supervisor Fletcher?
No.
Vice Chairman Desmond?
Aye.
Chairman Cox, that motion passes with Supervisor Fletcher voting no, all other supervisors being present and voting aye.
Thank you very much. We're going to take up item 5 right now, which is the to receive and approve a proposal for the development of the Live Well San Diego Youth Sector. And I'm very pleased to see this item come forward today. This was something that I brought up in my State of the County address back in February. And I know in August, we took some action to refer to our staff to come back for this meeting with a report on this recommendation. And I believe that Dean Arabratzis is going to give us a brief presentation on this item. Then I understand we have a couple of speakers. Dean, would you go ahead?
Before Dean begins his presentation, those members of the public that have requested to speak on this item, please dial in at the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Cox and members of the board. We are here today to discuss the proposed youth sector framework that was developed in response to the August 4th board letter entitled Supporting Youth Engagement in Service in San Diego County, championed by Chairman Greg Cox. Here to present the youth sector framework that will guide the development of the new Live Well San Diego youth sector is Carrie Riccatelli, our Director of Strategy and Innovation. Carrie?
Thank you, Dean. Chairman Cox and members of the board, on August 4th, you approved action to explore the creation of a new Live Well San Diego sector, comprised of and dedicated to youth. Briefly, the components to be explored included hiring young people to serve as youth advisors to guide the development of this sector, increasing youth participation on county boards and commissions, leadership and development training for youth, and creating mentorship opportunities within the county. These 4 components have been addressed in the youth sector framework that we are presenting to you today, which will be used to turn the youth sector into a reality. As you know, Live Well San Diego is the vision for a healthy, safe, and thriving San Diego community. Currently, there are 4 Live Well San Diego partner sectors that are engaged in this vision: cities and government, business and media, community and faith-based organizations, and schools and education. And these sectors connect people and organizations of every kind through a shared purpose to advance collective impact. This new youth sector will strive to connect youth age 15 to 24, a significant population in San Diego County of over 500,000, and prepare the next generation of leaders for civic engagement. We started this process by listening. County staff hosted over 35 listening sessions with youth-led and youth-serving organizations and programs across the region. I want to take a moment to thank these young people and the dozens of youth organizations that we met with, because their input and guidance has been key to the development of this youth engagement framework. During these listening sessions, county staff heard from over 150 youth leaders and adult allies, and their message was clear. The Live Well San Diego youth sector is a needed resource in San Diego County, and youth are eager to lead its development. The feedback we received is at the heart of the framework I'm presenting to you today. With this framework, we have the opportunity to integrate youth voice throughout our system of government, while also offering critical opportunities for youth to engage in leadership, development, and mentorship. But I want to be clear that this is a framework and not a plan, because we learned that for real buy-in, it is essential that youth are involved in the development of the actual plan for the youth sector. The first component of the framework is to hire 2 youth advisors as part-time county staff, as well as bring on a group of 15 young people for a 1-year term of service on the youth leadership team. The youth advisors will work with existing county staff in the Live Well San Diego support team and share responsibility in guiding the strategy and development of the youth sector. The youth leadership team will participate in leadership development and training, be matched with a mentor, and as appropriate, serve on county boards and commissions. The second component of the framework is training and professional development. During the listening sessions, a number of topics were identified for training to fully prepare youth for meaningful engagement. These include trainings on finding their strengths, education about how the county operates, as well as trainings on communication skills, implicit bias, inclusiveness, and racial equity. The third component of the framework is convening and collaboration at both the individual and organizational levels. The youth advisors and the youth leadership team will convene regular town hall meetings to identify topics that are most important for young people in the region. Collaboration with youth-led organizations will serve as a way for young people to connect and take action on the topics identified in the town halls. The youth mentorship and service component will pair youth with mentors in a county program or a Live Well San Diego partner organization that aligns with their interest. Mentors will be self-selected county staff or community leaders who are passionate about youth engagement and committed to ensuring that these young people have opportunities for a meaningful experience in their field. The fifth and final component of the framework is youth engagement on boards and commissions. In September, we assessed all county boards and commissions, and a majority of respondents identified that youth either currently participate on their board or commission, or that they're interested in having youth participate. Current and potential engagement includes shadowing members of boards and commissions, providing youth voice and subject matter expertise on important topics that affect youth, and youth serving as voting members where bylaws permit. Upon approval of this framework, we can begin developing the plan with youth. Our first step is to host a session by youth and for youth at the upcoming virtual Live Well Advance on December 3rd. During this session, youth participants from around the region will provide input on the development of the youth sector, such as how to effectively recruit and retain participants, and how to ensure diversity and equity among its members. The framework presented here today provides an outline to build a Live Well San Diego youth sector that not only results in the meaningful engagement of youth in public service, but also ensures their voice is a valued part of our vision for a healthy, safe, and thriving region. This concludes my presentation, subject to your questions.
Carrie, thank you very much for that presentation. And Dean, also, I want to thank your comments. I understand we do have 3 speakers on this item. If there's no questions of staff, we'll go ahead and proceed to those 3 speakers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We also received 4 e-comments on this item. As you indicated, we have 3 speakers on the line ready to address the board. We'll be calling speakers by the last 4 digits of their phone number, and you'll hear a notification that your call has been unmuted. You'll then need to press *6 to unmute your phone. Each caller will be asked to state their name for the audio record, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. You'll hear this sound when your time is up, so please conclude your comments at the time. Erin, if we could please identify the first caller.
Yes, our first caller is 3578. 3578.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua Piedra, pronouns he, him. I am 25 years old, and I'm with Youth Will. For most of my life, I've advocated for the inclusion of underrepresented voices in our governmental process. The voice of our youth has historically been ignored due to ageism, but their lived experiences are invaluable to the government in shaping and creating more effective programs. We must have institutional change that empowers youth to build policy and be part of our process. With that being said, I've had the privilege to be a part of several listening sessions with the county on the youth sector proposal, and I'm thrilled with what has been created. Mentoring and empowering our youth to be a part of the governmental process will only serve to benefit San Diego County and create the next generation of leadership in the region. Youth Will is excited to continue our partnership with the county, and we look forward to further developing a youth sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 8912. 8912.
Good morning. My name is Marabella. I'm 16 years old, and I'm a San Ysidro Health Team Clinic advocate. Having a young voice is really important for our county of San Diego because the youth are the next generation. Speaking about what's important is what will shape our community for the next few years as we get older. Speaking out allows other youth to be heard as well as those who can't speak out for whatever reason they have, whether they aren't allowed to or maybe they're afraid. They now know that they're not alone. They will have the resources and guidance with people who are just the same ages as them. It will bring changes to society as they have the power to strengthen our communities. As a youth with different perspectives, they can help change the world beneficially. I, as a youth myself, believe that it's so important to implement activities or places youth can go and speak about what they believe in, and also learn new aspects which will only benefit them and our community. This is why Teen Clinic is so important, for example, because some of the aspects we learn there aren't being taught at school nor being addressed by families. It's a safe space for youth to express their opinions and advocate for what they believe in. With the youth center opening up, Youth can finally be welcomed in an area where they can advocate on what they believe in and not be afraid to do so. They can work together with their ideas to create a wonderful society. I'm so excited for the youth center to open up, as this is a wonderful opportunity for all youth out there to be able to engage in leadership and show their voices out in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is 7942. 7942.
Before the next speaker begins, we'll just take a quick pause while we address an issue with the ASL interpretation.
Hi, good morning. My name is Carolina Plancarte. I'm 26 years old, and I'm calling from Escondido Education Compact. I am the Youth and Community Leadership Specialist.
Carolina, if I could please have you pause for a moment.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
For the benefit of the public, we're having a momentary pause as we get a few things straightened out with the American Sign Language speaker.
Chairman Cox, can we request a 5-minute recess while we address this issue with our Zoom meeting?
Okay, that's a very good suggestion. We will reconvene here at 10:50.
Thank you.
Meeting is recessed. Okay, Andrew, are you ready to go?
Mr. Chairman, we are ready. Thank you.
Okay, I'll reconvene the Board of Supervisors meeting. And I believe we have one more speaker on item number 5.
We do. Carolina, we are ready for you to speak. Thank you.
You may need to hit *6 again to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Good morning again. So my name is Carolina Plancarte. Like I said, I'm 26 years old, and I'm the Youth and Community Leadership Specialist with Escondido Education Compact. I took part of the listening session with the county regarding this youth sector. Having youth participate and express their opinion into the decisions that affect them is not only important, but beneficial. Having the experience of having the pleasure to work with different youth leadership groups, I know it's really important for them to be taken into account. A lot of, people, residents really, have faith in them, and they know that they're the change. So their variations of opinions always comes in handy because they have maybe a different approach of doing things and maybe things that we haven't really considered. So having them all come together, I think is really important. And I know a lot of great work and change will come out of this youth sector. We are just so excited to continue to partner with the county as this new sector develops. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes public testimony on this item, Chairman Cox.
Well, I want to thank the speakers this morning. We apologize for the interruption. I had a little computer glitch on our system, but very proud to see this item come back to the Board of Supervisors today. In my State of the County address back in February, I mentioned creating this Youth Engagement and Service Initiative, or as we refer to it as the YES Initiative, to find ways to include young people as influencers and decision makers at the county level. Since then, I've enjoyed gathering input from youth countywide and partnering with them on efforts like the Youth Emergency Readiness Ambassadors Program, we call them the URAs, with the Office of Emergency Services. We graduated our first cohort of youth ambassadors who served their communities by providing critical disaster preparedness information. And I'd like to congratulate them again and give them my sincerest thanks for their service. That work was done in conjunction with the development of the youth sector, and I'm happy to know that the youth sector will nurture the incredible potential of our youth. This sector will support our Live Well San Diego vision by engaging youth to help develop solutions for our most pressing issues and problems. This initiative will provide the opportunity for youth to participate on important boards and commissions that are responsible for making decisions that impact them and their families. It will focus on paying young people for their work as supportive staff to county departments, and it will establish an infrastructure that prepares youth to lead, to access county mentors, to develop career exploration at the county, and to evaluate the programs and services impacting them and their families. I started off in education. I was a dean of student activities at a high school in Eastern Chula Vista for 10.5 years. And one of the mantras I had always give to them is that they need to get involved in their school. They need to get involved in their community. Well, now we have an opportunity to do this with this item that is before us today. I want to thank our Director of Strategy and Innovation, Carrie Riccatelli, and her team members, Sharon Hughes and Tara Beeston, as well as the county's community development liaison, Elizabeth Bustos, for embracing this idea and their tireless work to develop this initiative. I know that this effort is in good hands moving forward and will make a positive impact on our youth and families for generations to come. I also want to thank my Chief of Staff, Danny Malgoza, and my policy advisor, Kia Pollard, for the hard work that they put in on this item. Ironically, Kia Pollard's last day on my staff was yesterday. She is assuming a new job with the National Association of Counties, and I couldn't be happier for her and happier for NACO for having such a hardworking employee. With that, I would make a motion to approve the recommendations included in this board item.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman. If I can make a couple of comments too. I think this is a phenomenal initiative and a great vision that you have in bringing youth into county government. Also, as a former teacher, there's a lot of education about government at the national level, probably not enough in this day and age, but there is nothing, little to nothing about in our educational system about local government, particularly county government. Even a lot of adults today don't even know what county government does or what a county supervisor does. So with what you have put in place here in bringing young people into county government, not only are they going to get the experience, it's going to provide a perspective that we don't have, and that is from our young people, but it's also going to educate our young people about county government, what it is, what it does. As we know, county government touches every person in this region one way or another, not just once, but probably many times during a lifetime, but little known. And I think it'll also provide, through that educational process and the knowledge of county government, entice people to be a part of county government, to be involved in it, and to be a part of public service. So I applaud you, Mr. Chairman, for your vision on this. I wholeheartedly support this initiative, and looking from afar, I'll be anxious to see all of what it produces into the future. So thank you for that.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Supervisor. Vice Chairman Desmond.
Thank you very much. You know, congratulations. This is a long time coming, and I think, you know, a great program putting forward, getting youth involved and at, you know, young ages in government, so they can hopefully understand it and have a better idea how to make it better in the future. So this is, I think, you know, one of the crowning points in your legacy of providing this opportunity for youth. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Mr. Chair, just to add on to that, this is a really positive step forward. This is a great way to engage the next generation of leaders in their government and what's happening. And I commend you and your team for bringing this forward and putting it in place. I think our county will be a better place because of it.
Thank you, Supervisor. We do have a motion by the chair, seconded by Supervisor Jacob. If there is no further discussion, would the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you, Chairman Cox.
Aye.
Supervisor Jacob. Supervisor Jacob.
Aye.
Supervisor Gaspar.
Aye.
Supervisor Fletcher.
Fletcher, aye.
Vice Chairman Desmond.
Aye.
Chairman Cox, that motion passes unanimously with all board members being present and voting aye.
Very good, thank you. We'll move on now to item number 4, which is an ordinance adding and repealing provisions in the San Diego County Code regarding the sale of tobacco products in the unincorporated area of San Diego County. And we do have, I believe now 47 speakers on this item. But before we get started, if there's not any questions, the staff preliminarily will go ahead and ask Dean Batsis, our acting Director of Health and Human Services, to kick us off on this. And I believe Dr. Wilma Wooten will have some additional comments after Dean gets done. Dean, go ahead.
Before Dean begins, any members of the public that have requested to speak on this item, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. You will be muted until it is your turn to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Cox and members of the board. On October 15, 2019, the Board of Supervisors authorized staff to return with recommendations for revisions to the county code related to tobacco control regulation in alignment with state law, a tobacco retail licensing or TRL program, and adding prohibition of smoking in county parking lots to future negotiations with employee bargaining units. The proposed updates and a proposed TRL ordinance provided today address these recommendations and will limit tobacco use and protect youth and young adults' health from harms of exposure to and purchase of tobacco products, including electronic cigarettes. Dr. Wilma Wooten will present on the proposed recommendations. Dr. Wooten.
Thank you, Dean, Chairman Cox, and members of the board. Today's presentation is focused on actions related to preventing youth access to tobacco products. Preventing the use of tobacco products in youth is critical in addressing the tobacco epidemic in the United States. So what does research tell us? According to the 2007 National Survey on Drug Use and Health in the United States, 4 out of 5 people who smoke became daily smokers before age 21. Although it has been illegal to sell tobacco to minors since 1891, California Penal Code 308, youth in California are still able to access tobacco products. In addition, according to the California Department of Public Health, in California, 86% of youth tobacco users report using flavored tobacco products. Now regarding today's recommendations. First, on January 28th, this year, your board approved smoke-free outdoor dining, a one-year moratorium on electronic cigarettes, and a flavored smoking products ban in the unincorporated area of San Diego County. I would like to provide an update on a recent state legislative action related to flavored tobacco products that impacts actions taken by your board in January. SB 793 was signed into law on August 28th. Effective January 1, 2021, retailers will be prohibited from selling the items that are listed on this slide. However, SB 793 does not apply to the sale of flavored shisha for use in a hookah, premium cigars over $12, nor loose leaf pipe tobacco. Today's proposed ordinance will align the January board action to ban flavored smoking products with SB 793 by including exemptions for loose leaf pipe tobacco and premium cigars, requiring a minimum age of 21 to enter or work in a tobacco shop or private smoker's lounge, maintaining shisha flavor exemption, and requiring that hookah retailers cannot permit any person under 21 years of age to be present or enter the premises at any time. In the following slides, I will describe how the proposed TRL program will align with SB 793 to ensure enforcement of your January board action. Second, we will also respond to your January board's directive to return with recommendations to establish a tobacco retail licensing or TRL program in the unincorporated area to strengthen enforcement of minimum age sale laws and to facilitate compliance monitoring of retailers. A TRL program is a proven and effective regulatory approach to limit youth access and exposure to tobacco products and will enforce your board actions of January 28th related to e-cigarettes and flavors ban. According to a 2018 American Lung Association review of 41 California communities with licensing ordinances or TRL programs, locally, El Cajon had a 40% youth sales rate before it established a TRL ordinance in 2004. After implementation of its ordinance, the most recent youth sales rate was 1%. Vista had a 39% youth sales rate before its ordinance. After its 2005 ordinance was established, the most recent youth sales rate was 1.9%. The elements listed on this slide are best practice components of a TRL program and are included in the comprehensive tobacco retail licensing ordinance published by the Public Health Law Center in July of this year. The Public Health Law Center provides legal and strategic support and resources to local and state health departments on public health issues. Key elements of a TRL program include the following 4 items. All tobacco retailers obtain a license each year that is issued by the county. All retailers must pay an annual fee to cover the license, administrative efforts, and enforcement. Any violation of a local, state, or federal tobacco law is considered a violation of the county license. And fourth, financial deterrent through fines and penalties for violations may also include suspension and revocation of license. There are also additional recommended model elements which provide for a stronger program and provide greater protections for youth. While all are listed on this slide, I will only highlight some of the major elements under each of the 4 categories. Under the county uniform licensing procedure, there will be no transfer of the TRL license if a tobacco retailer sells their business or changes location. A new application will need to be submitted by the new owner or the new for the new location. Under site regulations, facilities with on-site pharmacies will be restricted from selling tobacco products. Also, the number of total tobacco retailers will be limited. Under price regulations, a minimum price for certain tobacco products and minimum pack size for cigars and little cigars will be established. And under the age requirements exemption, the ordinance will require any person obtaining a TRL license, selling tobacco or tobacco products, or entering a private smokers or hookah lounge to be of legal minimum age for purchase, which is 21 years of age. This model comprehensive tobacco retail licensing ordinance developed by the Public Health Law Center includes best practices and common TRL standards found throughout the state. This slide shows a comparison of various California cities and counties with the various elements that I have described that each has included in its TRL program. Additionally, the American Lung Association's annual State of Tobacco Control report card grades similar elements, including retailer location restriction, which is associated with the density or a cap on the number of retailer licenses, restriction of the sale of tobacco products in pharmacies, and of note, as of August 15th this year, there are 40 California jurisdictions with pharmacy bans, including 7 counties, some of which are included on the slide shown to you here, and minimum pack size of cigars. Today's proposed model ordinance takes a comprehensive approach to regulating the sale of tobacco products and the tobacco retail environment, utilizing the best practice elements recommended by the Public Health Law Center. The next slide diagrams a summary timeline for developing and implementing a TRL program for the unincorporated area. If approved by your board, the program development would occur from November 2020 through June 2021 and will include continued education and outreach, development of a public-facing web page, creation of policies and procedures, and finalization of the licensing application process. From July to September 2021, there will be a focus on the licensing launch, when the county will receive and review retailer applications and anticipate about 160 applications per month. Although licensing would begin in July of 2021, TRL fees would not be collected from retailers until July of 2022. The year between implementation and the collection of fees from retailers will be used to analyze the true cost of the program and assess options for the fee structure. This entire timeline also considers the current economic climate and the impact to small businesses. Beginning in October 2021 and beyond, enforcement would start with the first inspections. Throughout this process, ongoing retailer education would be conducted. The TRL program would be carried out by the Health and Human Services Agency's Department of Public Health Services in order to achieve the most cost-effective model and develop the most streamlined and efficient program possible. This TRL process is based on the required elements of a model TRL program, which are considered standard practices for TRL programs throughout the state. Through this process, staff would provide ongoing retailer education while implementing annual licensure through an application process and fees. The issuing officer is the public health officer. the TRL program license application fee would be added to a future HHSA fee board letter based on a fee study. Once again, there would be further revisions to the fee. Enforcement will include compliance monitoring through decoy operations and inspections performed by public health services staff. County staff assess TRL programs in cities of San Diego County and in other California jurisdictions, and they operate under inspection-based enforcement model, as I have just described. Finally, retailers found in violation will have the opportunity to appeal inspection findings. Stakeholders were able to provide feedback through recent conversations with county staff, the Health Services Advisory Board meeting, and through stakeholder engagement meetings. While the proposed TRL program and ordinance were based on statewide standards and best practices, both groups included concerns. Those that were for and those that were against a TRL program expressed those concerns. 4 main concerns were voiced by local tobacco control advocates regarding number 1, tobacco product exemptions, specifically flavored shisha for use in a hookah, premium cigars over $12, and loose leaf tobacco. The ordinance is following suit with SB 793, which took into consideration cultural implications and the reality that young adults are likely not purchasing loose leaf tobacco or premium cigars. The second concern was the time between ordinance adoption and program implementation. Taking into consideration the potential financial hardships caused by COVID-19, it is important to allow retailers ample time to become compliant with the ordinance and have time to sell off products that will be prohibited under this proposed ordinance. The third concern was the fee amount not being included in the ordinance, and that the fee be high enough to cover program implementation. The fee will be included in HHSA's annual fee package. Not including the fee at this time will allow staff time to perform an appropriate time study to ensure the proposed fee sufficiently covers the cost of operating the program. And the last concern from this group was the timeline for density restrictions to go into effect. Licensing will occur over several months in 2021, starting in July, allowing time for existing retailers to obtain a license. The density and the cap provisions would go into effect beginning January 1, 2022. Conversely, the main concerns of tobacco retailers and tobacco or business associations were included as the following. The first, the provisions restricting pharmacies from obtaining a tobacco retail license. This ordinance states that no license may be issued to authorize a tobacco retail license at a location with an on-site pharmacy. Pharmacies are intended to provide customers with products to help them improve their health. By selling tobacco products, pharmacies are sending a mixed message to their customers. And additionally, since 2010, the American Pharmacists Association has supported policies of this nature to discontinue tobacco sales at pharmacies. The second concern by this group was the minimum age provision for sales clerks. This provision replicates the rationale behind state law to serve alcohol and limits the potential for underage clerks to feel pressure to sell to their underage peers. The third concern was a minimum price provision. The more barriers to purchasing tobacco, such as location and price, for young people, the less likely they are to begin smoking. Price is a well-established deterrent for purchasing tobacco products, especially for youth. The fourth is the rationale behind the cap on the total number of tobacco retail licenses. All existing retailers will be able to apply for a license between July 1 and December 31st of 2021. Even if the number exceeds the 330 cap referenced in the ordinance, The cap on the number of licenses available affects new retailers starting January 1, 2022. This means no new tobacco retail license will be issued after the application deadline on December 31st, 2021, if the number of current licenses is above 330. And last, the prohibition on online and delivery sales. This action addresses access. Youth gain access to tobacco products through stores, the internet, and social sources such as friends and classmates. Eliminating youth access requires actions on all fronts, including online and delivery sales. This provision would serve as another protective measure for youth by further limiting their ability to buy tobacco products. So today's recommendations support the Building Better Health, Living Safely, and Thriving components of Live Well San Diego. By implementing comprehensive policies that protect the health and well-being of San Diego residents and visitors, and by lessening the burden of chronic diseases, including all of the proposed TRL provisions, along with the prior smoke-free outdoor dining ordinance. They both are expected to move the unincorporated area grade from F to a C grade on the American Lung Association State of the Tobacco Control Report Card. This increased score would show considerable progress by the County of San Diego towards protecting vulnerable communities in the retail environment. Again, it is worth noting that TRL programs are not uncommon across the state, and according to the American Lung Association, there are ways to make the proposed TRL program even more stringent in the future. Also, there are COVID-19 implications to this proposed ordinance. According to the California Department of Public Health, smoking doubles one's risk of developing respiratory infections, including COVID-19, and developing severe illness and complications from such infections. Additionally, young adults and teens who vape have also been found to face a much higher risk of COVID-19 than those who do not. Since our first case in early March for COVID-19, those in the 10 to 29 age group account for 35.1% of all COVID cases. Finally, a model TRL program would reduce youth access and exposure to tobacco products without penalizing youth, because it is known that tobacco companies disproportionately target the youth, those with less than a college education, and those in rural areas. At 12.9%, the unincorporated area has the highest smoking rates in San Diego County. A TRL program would support not only the vulnerable youth population, but those trying to quit smoking. Last, a recommendation from the October 2019 board action is to establish the prohibitions of smoking for county parking lots. Smoking in indoor areas, including parking lots, creates harmful exposure to secondhand smoke to and for non-smokers. To protect and to contribute to the health, safety, and well-being of all county employees and the San Diego County residents who may visit county facilities, it is recommended to take the appropriate measures towards prohibiting smoking in county parking lots. Adding the prohibition of smoking in county parking lots will be an action item in calendar years 2022 and 2023 for non-safety unions or associations and safety unions or associations, respectively. In summary, today we have presented recommendations for the provisions to the county code related to tobacco control regulation in alignment with state law, for tobacco retail licensing or TRL program, which incorporates standard language and regulations used by jurisdictions across the state, and for adding prohibitions the prohibition of smoking in county parking lots to future negotiations with employee bargaining units. There is ample evidence that TRL programs work to address the increase in youth and young adult e-cigarette use, strengthen enforcement of minimum age sale laws, and facilitate compliance monitoring of retailers. As mentioned, the county will align the proposed TRL program ordinance with SB 793 language by including the same exemptions and preserving the cultural use of hookah. In closing, if approved, county staff will return for a second reading of this proposed ordinance on November 17th. This concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wooten. I know we do have, I believe, 47 speakers, but before we get into those speakers, let me ask if any of my colleagues have any questions for staff. I know Supervisor Fletcher, you had a question you wanted to raise.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I want to thank Dr. Wooten. That was a very thorough and thoughtful presentation. I know we just adopted a resolution trusting your judgment on public health matters and your guidance, and I think the presentation you just gave reinforces why we have that confidence in what you are recommending from a public health standpoint. I think what we're doing is important. The professor side of me thinks that going from an F to a C is certainly progress, and some students think C's for degrees, and that's good enough. I do think an A, certainly a B is better than a C, but if we can take a step forward to a C today, then I think that's putting us on a proper trajectory. And I just want to put in context what we're talking about here when we talk about the tobacco industry. We're talking about a product that has no redeeming health value at all. We're talking about an addictive product that we know has been purposefully marketed to youth and to vulnerable communities. But we also know in the United States, according to the CDC, Center for Disease Controls, that the public health costs associated with tobacco products is $300 billion a year, which we all pay. Again, we socialize the cost, $300 billion a year of healthcare related costs, so that the tobacco industry can make $63 billion a year in profit. And this has incredible negative health implications. And so to be able to take a positive step forward, one calculation that was done showed it's almost $10,000 in profit per death in the United States. And so to be able to take this step forward, and I was very impressed at the tremendous progress at other jurisdictions. This is not new to San Diego County. Solana Beach, El Cajon, Oceanside, San Diego, San Marcos Vista have all done them, but to also do it with the best practices. Best practices around pharmacies. Again, more than 40 jurisdictions have already adopted this. We saw when CVS stopped selling cigarettes, CVS made a decision to say, you know, if you come to a pharmacy, you come to a pharmacy to get well. You come to a pharmacy to get something that's going to make you better. It's inconsistent with their entire approach to then sell you something on the way out the door that will make you sicker. When CVS stopped selling cigarettes in the states where they have a prominent footprint, there was an almost 100 million pack decline in the amount of cigarettes smoked in those states. That's significant progress. That's significant progress towards public health. That's also significant cost savings for the taxpayers that have to socialize and bear the cost of the $300 billion a year in healthcare costs out of this profit-generating enterprise. So I think that's a positive step. All of the things we're doing, again, are best practices, have been workshopped, have been socialized. I know some folks, won't like it, but the reality is that the county, we have been out of compliance with what we know is established health. So Dr. Wooten, I want to commend you and your team for the work you've done to bring this forward today, and look forward to hopefully us moving forward.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure, go ahead, Supervisor Jacob.
Thank you. Dr. Wooten, thank you. That was an excellent presentation and follow up to the board direction. I was really pleased to join Supervisor Fletcher in initiating this action that we have before us today. The whole goal here is, as the supervisor indicated, is to reduce access to our youth. There are no redeeming value to tobacco or tobacco use in any way. And I think that's been demonstrated. And I won't repeat what Supervisor Fletcher had. I do have a couple of questions though. On the online sales, how would you enforce that? How would you enforce the prohibition on online sales?
Supervisor, this is Tom Montgomery. What we would do is, it's going to be on a complaint basis, obviously, and so if we would learn about a company that was violating the ordinance by selling online, we would have to file an action to get some type of an injunctive relief to prevent them from further sales.
And I guess in my mind, I'm in a quandary on this because you can buy alcohol online, but there's certain regulations attached to it. And I understand there was a Senate Bill 39 that laid out some very strict ways in which you could buy online. Maybe we ought to discuss that. I don't know. The other question I had was on transfer of ownership. I wasn't quite clear in the presentation, like if the transfer of ownership of the license. So if say a father wanted to pass it on, the license on to his son or daughter, is that a possibility? Is that considered a change in ownership? I mean, where you have an inherited situation?
Okay. Supervisor Fletcher, Kyle Sand with the County Council, Supervisor Jacob, Kyle Sand with the County Council's office. To answer that question, I think it would depend on how the business was set up and the name of the license. For example, many businesses are sole proprietorships, but they're also perhaps if it's a corporation, if it's an LLC, that might depend on, or that might impact what the transfer would be. So if it was a family business, for example, if it was solely held in the name of the father, for example, then that could be a problem in terms of inheritance. But I think that's something we could look at on a case-by-case factual basis when it came up to a situation in which somebody deceased and there was an issue about transferring the license and a cap on the number of licenses.
So what I think I understood you to say is that it would depend on how the business is set up.
That would be correct, at how the license was held.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's all I have for now, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any other questions of staff before we get into the public speakers? Given the number of public speakers we have, it would be my intent to go ahead and hear speakers up through 12 noon. And then we would take a 1 hour break for lunch and then come back at 1 o'clock and finish up this item and the remaining items on the agenda. Is that going to meet with satisfaction from my colleagues? Hearing no objection. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started then with the first speaker. So Andrew, go ahead and start calling the speakers. I would point out, given the number, we'll limit the speakers to 2 minutes. And again, ask you please not to be repetitive, but certainly give us your opinion. Okay, Mr. Clerk, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Cox. Also note for the record that we received 192 e-comments on this item. We have 37 callers on the line to address the board. We'll be calling speakers by the last 4 digits of your phone number. You'll hear a notification that your call has been unmuted. You will then need to press *6 to unmute your phone. Each caller will be asked to state their name for the record. As the chairman indicated, you'll have 2 minutes to address the board. You'll hear this sound when your time is up, so please conclude your comments at that time. And I'll remind the public speakers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. Erin, if you could identify the first caller.
Yes, our first caller is 5657. You may proceed.
Good morning, San Diego County Board of Supervisors. My name is Jennifer Gill, and I'm a program manager with Vista Community Clinic Tobacco Control Program. High rates of illegal sales of tobacco products to minors are linked with low retailer perception of being caught and penalized. For this reason, annual compliance checks on all retailers escalating license suspension periods, and eventual license revocation are critical to reducing illegal tobacco sales to minors. In fact, across 33 California communities, sales to underage youth dropped by an average of 26% after implementation of a tobacco retailer licensing law with strong enforcement. Simple fines for violations have not resulted in significant drops in illegal tobacco sales to youth because some retailers view violation fees as just the cost of doing business. With the recent finding by the county that 20% of tobacco retailers in the unincorporated area illegally sold tobacco products to minors, the need for annual compliance checks on all retailers and strong penalties on shop owners is clear. Thank you for considering this important public health policy.
Thank you. Our next speaker is 2070. 2070. You need to press *6 to unmute yourself. 2070.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Cincion. I am 17 years old and attend Borrego Springs High School. I am in support of the tobacco retail license. Those under the age of 21 are often able to purchase tobacco products at all types of stores, ranging from convenience stores and gas stations to large chains, grocery stores, and pharmacies, even though it is illegal to sell them, and it is happening here in Borrego Springs. At my high school, I've seen other people smoking and vaping. This is upsetting to me as I know that using products that contain nicotine at such a young age can affect their brain development and create an addiction that can last their whole life. And kids are not safe from the health problems from vaping too. One student at my school was a constant everyday vape user who developed a lung issue called popcorn lung from their vaping. Having a tobacco retail license will make sure stores will know that they need to follow the rules, and if they get caught selling to kids, they can lose their license. This will protect others just like me from a lifetime of a nicotine addiction. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is 7613. 7613.
My name is Becky Rapp. I live in District 3 and I'm a mom working with youth. I applaud the county's work in banning flavored tobacco, and I recognize firsthand that all flavored tobacco products are a pathway to nicotine addiction, and there should be no exceptions. Exceptions lead to loopholes that youth will find and tobacco companies will exploit. I live just east of a large area of unincorporated county land. There is no better time for the Board of Supervisors to send a clear message that there is no place in our county for any tobacco products that damage lung health by implementing a tobacco retailer's license program, or TRL. A TRL will ensure that the ban on flavored tobacco products is implemented. This TRL ordinance is an educational message that any tobacco product use is especially problematic during COVID, a respiratory illness attacking lungs. I consider the health of our children and teens to be the foremost importance and utmost urgency. I strongly support this Board of Supervisors in its efforts to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 0867. 0867. Again, you need to press *6 to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Lindsay Freitas. I'm with the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids. The most effective way to keep kids safe from flavored tobacco and create the first tobacco-free generation is to end the sale of flavored tobacco products without exemptions. The Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids supports these comprehensive bans on the sale of all flavored tobacco products and strong tobacco retailer license ordinances that hold store owners accountable for complying with all tobacco control laws. Prohibiting the sale of flavored tobacco products, including menthol cigarettes, in all tobacco retailers is a critical step that will help protect children living in San Diego County from the unrelenting efforts of the tobacco industry to hook them to a deadly addiction. Flavored tobacco products are designed to alter the taste and reduce the harshness of tobacco products so they're more appealing and easy for beginners who are almost always kids. These products are pervasive and are marketed and sold in a variety of kid-friendly flavors. With their colorful packaging and sweet flavors, flavored tobacco products are often hard to distinguish from the candy displays near which they are frequently placed in retail outlets. Nationally, 7 out of 10 of current youth tobacco users have used a flavored tobacco product in the past month. Earlier this year, the board took the crucial step to adopt a policy, including an exemption for flavored smokeless tobacco. We commend the board's decision to move forward with closing that loophole, but encourage you to consider removing the additional loopholes that you are currently considering. Currently, over 100 California communities have enacted strong tobacco retailer license policies with comprehensive flavored tobacco sales restrictions without exemptions. We believe San Diego County kids deserve these same protections and respectfully urge the board to support these vital public health policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 1416. 1416.
All right. Good morning. My name is Derby Pattengill. I live in the city of San Diego and am speaking today on behalf of the 9th District PTA. I am the Vice President in charge of legislation for the 9th District PTA, and we represent 70,000 members in 342 PTAs in San Diego County. We are invested in fighting the youth tobacco epidemic and support comprehensive flavored tobacco sales restrictions and strong TRL policies in San Diego County. Kid-friendly flavors have easy access at retail stores and have lured our kids into nicotine addiction. And now over 30% of high school students currently use tobacco products. Since virtually all smokers begin their lifelong nicotine addiction as teens, we must now act to protect our kids. As a national organization, the Parent-Teacher Association has long been committed to protecting our kids from nicotine addiction. We are in support of your recent board actions outlined by Dr. Wooten, and we're strong supporters of SB 793 and are in support of this proposal today. It is fact that tobacco and vape products contain a powerfully addictive drug, nicotine, that is a serious threat to the health of children and adolescents. Children who smoke increase their risk of having long-term serious health problems, including heart disease, cancer, and emphysema. Parents have the right to expect that their children will not be sold harmful, addictive products, and the business community has the responsibility to comply with the laws to protect the children. So we, the PTA, are urging the Board of Supervisors to strengthen the flavored tobacco sales restriction policy to include hookah and smokeless tobacco, preserve existing sales restriction on all other flavored tobaccos, and enact a tobacco retail license policy that includes the annual compliance checks on all retailers. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 6963. 6963. Again, you need to press *6. Oh, there we go.
Good morning. My name is Leticia Robles. I'm a parent and resident in the city of San Marcos, also a member of the San Marcos Prevention Coalition. We support a strong tobacco retailer license in San Diego County to help reduce and prevent teen access to tobacco products. In San Marcos, teens vaping tobacco has increased 50% in the last few years, according to the TICS data 2019. Teen vaping is a major problem, but effective public health policies can address this epidemic. The city of San Marcos is adjacent to the city of the incorporated area, so the adoption of this policy is especially important in our work in protecting our teens developing brains against tobacco brain poison and becoming a lifelong tobacco addict. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next caller is 7092. 7092.
Good morning. This is Lisa Archibald. I'm the program manager at Vista Community Clinic's Tobacco Control Program. Vista Community Clinic is a federally qualified health center serving the communities of Carlsbad, Oceanside, and Vista. As a healthcare safety net in the community, we understand the devastating impact tobacco use has on the nearly 70,000 patients we serve every year. We are invested in ensuring all San Diego County youth are free from nicotine addiction. Enacting regulations that monitor and enforce the sale of tobacco products is an effective way to reduce the health disparity of tobacco-related death and disease that young people are sure to face in years to come. Local tobacco retail licensing programs have been shown to reduce youth access to tobacco products. In the city of Vista, with an annual license fee that funds regular compliance checks, they have reduced their illegal sales rate of 39% to 1.9% over a 15-year period. It is important that the program requires an annual license fee from the retailer to cover the cost, and that requirement should be included in the ordinance language and not just the board letter. Adding this language into the ordinance will ensure the intent of the policy is upheld and will create a sustainable way the county can fund enforcement. Thank you for considering this important public health measure.
Thank you. Our next caller is 6398. 6398.
Yes, my name is James Mitchell. I'm a business owner here locally here in San Diego County. I understand how the supervisors have already gone ahead and passed the TRL, which I fully support with the exception of a few minor things. Now, the additions that the board is considering today is unwarranted, unnecessary, and are draconian. At what point do these supervisors want businesses to do business in unincorporated parts of San Diego? You've already killed many small businesses by forcing them to close during COVID-19. You have not allowed them to have their freedoms and rights to be open during such times where people can have their own abilities and make their own decisions of if they want to visit a business. And now you want to have businesses, force them to have people to work for them that are of age of 21 or more. You have a TRL in place that you're looking to implement. Implement the damn law. Stop being communists. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is 7561. 7561.
Hello, my name is V. Thuy Nguyen. I'm Assistant Chief of Pediatrics in my organization and a community pediatrician in the South Bay. I'm speaking today as a member of the American Academy of Pediatrics. The AAP supports this bill. I grew up in Bonita, I trained at Harvard, and I returned home to the South Bay to practice. I find my work meaningful as I take care of children from diverse communities, ranging from Eastern Chula Vista, Bonita, and to West National City. I'm the pediatrician for my high school friends. I'm the mother of a 12 and 15-year-old, exactly the ages that this vaping epidemic is affecting. I support this bill. For the past 15 years as a pediatrician, I walk into my office and I go to work trying to improve healthcare family by family. What has always helped me to do the right thing is to think, if this was my child, what would I do? That will always steer a doctor toward the right path. I ask you today to think like a pediatrician. For my own children and my 2,000 patients, I would like this board to pass this bill for the protection of all our children. In the last 5 years, I have seen e-cigs and flavored tobacco products ruining children's health. I'm referring more older teens to addiction services for vaping and flavored tobacco products. As the kids are going through withdrawal, they look like they're going through a thyroid storm. This is how scary vaping addiction can get. I have children as young as 10 tell me that vaping pens are commonly present in their school bathrooms, which includes affluent areas in Eastern Chula Vista. Older teens are blasé about how easy it is to get flavored vaping pens and cigarillos, and they are smoking with their same age peers that are under 18 years of age. I know because I asked them and they tell me. I have one junior who's in the Coronado school system, and they told me that their classmate asked for a vaping device at her school's Secret Santa gift discussion with a code name, and the teacher had no idea because they didn't recognize the code name. And this is the thing about vaping. It has become an insidious epidemic that's affecting all our children. I would like to protect my children and as well as yours. Please vote yes on this bill. I'm pretty sure your pediatrician would appreciate it too. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 9360. 9360. Again, you need to press *6 to unmute yourself. If If we don't hear from you, we'll come back to you at a later point. Our next caller is 4861. 4861.
Good morning, Supervisors. My name is Linda Barber, and I am with the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network. And I'm here to talk to you about why this policy is important. Local action to protect kids from tobacco is critical to encouraging a generation of kids, potentially saving them from a lifetime of addiction. And we commend you for your work today. The recent passage of Senate Bill 793 that restricted the sale of flavored tobacco products in California will provide much needed protection for our kids. But the industry successfully lobbied to have loose leaf tobacco and pipe tobacco exempted from this policy. This California law is a floor. It is not the top level, and it explicitly allows local jurisdictions to enact stronger policies. A local policy can and should go beyond the state law to include all products without exemptions for any flavored product. Big Tobacco continues to do anything to stop this law, and its future is uncertain as Big Tobacco is paying top dollar for signatures for a referendum that will delay implementation for at least 2 years. This is a clear attempt by them to protect its revenue and allowing them to continue to addict our kids. They have a long history of marketing to vulnerable populations and have modified and created new products like flavored electronic cigarettes to circumvent federal prohibition on flavored cigarettes. There's little doubt they can and will do anything to make their products appeal to youth if any door is left open. And surely this board can do better than the state law. Take a strong stand against Big Tobacco and its front groups and fully protect all the youth by prohibiting all flavored tobacco products with no exemptions and include strong retail licenses. We respectfully urge you to enact these comprehensive flavored sales restrictions with no exemptions and your strong tobacco retail license policy. Our families are counting on you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 7769. 7769.
Hi, yes, my name is Molly Sylvester, and I'm the board member of the NMA and chairwoman for CSV. I had a business for over 7 years in the county, and Fletcher, Jacob, and Cox have already regulated me out of business, not COVID. This ordinance is about imposing more regulations, not establishing a TRL. This is not what you voted on and approved. This is dictatorship and clearly based on your own opinions and not on your constituents' needs or facts. Requiring clerks to be 21 and dictating prices well above the MSRP does nothing but destroy small businesses and jobs. You guys need to do better. You need to represent your constituents, not your own selfish political agendas. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 3848. Again, 38. Oh, how about 9360? Our next caller is 9360. 9360.
Hello, my name is Chris Messick. I live in Ramona. I feel that as it's written, you're setting businesses up for failure. You're elected officials. Your job is to do what's right, not what's easy. It's easy to impose the strongest rules possible, but it's wrong to punish everybody for the actions of a few bad people. Your job is to find out who's doing wrong and punish them. This TRL just punishes everybody. A lot of them have done nothing wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 4241. 4241.
Hi, good morning, Board of Supervisors and Chairman Cox. My name is Dr. Bonnie Halpern-Felsher. I'm a professor of pediatrics at Stanford University in the Division of Adolescent Medicine. I'm a developmental psychologist with additional training in adolescent and young adult health, and I'm the founder and executive director of the Tobacco Prevention Toolkit. I have over 25 years of experience researching why youth use tobacco with a particular focus on flavors and marketing of tobacco to youth. Thank you so much San Diego for the steps you've already taken to protect youth. I'm writing to express strong support for the proposed ordinance to eliminate the sale of all tobacco products for all flavors and, importantly, all tobacco products. This ordinance will help protect youth from the harms of flavored tobacco products. As a scientist and developmental psychologist with over 150 publications, I can honestly say that this ordinance is based on scientific evidence and will go far to protect the kids from a lifetime of addiction. But this ordinance has to be passed without any exemptions, including hookah, cigars, and pipe tobacco. Here's why. There are over 15,000 unique flavors in e-cigarettes, but there are flavors in other tobacco products like mint and menthol and other flavors. We know that youth cite flavors as a reason for youth, and they say they would quit tobacco if flavors were not available. And our research shows that these flavors are in all tobacco products, and that's why kids use them. If one tobacco product was not available, youth would simply switch to another tobacco product. Hence, we have to protect all of our kids by a comprehensive flavor ban with no exemptions. Now's the time to act. As we fight coronavirus, it's never been more important to keep our lungs healthy. Coronavirus attacks the lungs, and there's clear evidence that smoking and vaping harm the lungs. In fact, we published a paper showing that adolescents and young adults who smoke and or vape are significantly more likely to be diagnosed. We have to do everything we can to pass this ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next caller is 1263. 1263.
Good morning, Supervisors. My name is Lori Bremner, and I am with PAVE, California. PAVE is Parents Against Vaping E-Cigarettes. It's a national parents organization founded in 2018 as a grassroots response to the youth vaping epidemic. PAVE is in support of a comprehensive tobacco retail licensing ordinance that includes an annual fee and includes a full ban on the sale of all flavored tobacco products, including menthol cigarettes. As parents, we know firsthand the toll that this adolescent public health crisis is taking on so many American families. We hear heartbreaking stories from parents all over the country, including from here in San Diego County, who are desperately searching for resources as they struggle with their kids' severe nicotine addiction, an addiction that harms teens' developing brains and lungs. The 2020 National Youth Tobacco Survey provides the proof that flavors hook kids. 8 out of 10 teen e-cig users are using flavored products, and 37% of them are now using menthol flavor, proving that minty menthol is absolutely a kid favorite. If some flavors are left on the shelf, kids will just chase any flavor available, as that is what enticed them to try nicotine in the first place. San Diego County families are counting on you to value our kids' health higher than the profits of businesses that exist to sell deadly products. It only takes one unethical clerk to addict an entire neighborhood of kids. PAVE urges you to be bold, be strong in your defense of the precious lungs of our youth. We cannot wait on the state or the federal government in this time of COVID, when lung health has never been more important. The need for these protections has never been more urgent. Please strengthen the tobacco retail licensing ordinance, include all retailers, include all flavored tobacco products. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next caller is 3971. 3971.
Manuel Andrade. Hello. Good morning. My name is Manuel Andrade. I have been working as a health advocate for the last 18 years in San Diego County, and for the last 14 years as a tobacco prevention and education advocate. I'm here in support of banning all flavored tobacco products and implementing strong tobacco retail license without exceptions that regulates on new tobacco businesses and retailers, including hookah lounges. Many of hookah lounges do not follow state labor codes. They sell food and alcohol. They provide live entertainment, and they allow smoking indoors, all against state labor codes. I know we are here today after 30 years of having a statewide indoor smoking ban, talking about these, and knowing that tobacco kills more than 500,000 people a year, knowing that one single hookah session equals to 100 cigarettes worth of smoke, knowing how dangerous secondhand smoke is, knowing that the industry targets children, youth, and young individuals with flavored tobacco products. These used in hookah, tobacco, and electronic cigarettes. And knowing that 30% or more of high school students and college students are hooked to nicotine. On top of that, the CDC reports 1.5 million young adults, 18 to 29 years old, infected with coronavirus. We have to take action as these products only worsened this pandemic. Thank you very much, Board of Supervisors, for what you're doing. Please support this ordinance and again, no exceptions. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Our next caller is 8754. 8754.
Good morning. I'm Chelsea Walzak-Burks, Community Impact Director for the San Diego Division of the American Heart Association and San Diego City resident. Easy access to kid-friendly flavored tobacco is driving the youth tobacco epidemic we see today. But e-cigarettes aren't the only product that has contributed to skyrocketing youth use. In recent years, there's been an explosion of sweet-flavored tobacco cigars with flavors like chocolate, wild berry, watermelon, lemonade, and cherry dynamite. These sweet products have fueled the popularity of cigars among youth. In fact, more high school boys now smoke cigars than cigarettes. Research shows that 74% of youth cigar users between the age of 12 and 17, that's right, 12 and 17, say that they use these products because they come in flavors that I like. Looking back, cigars weren't always attractive to kids, but a loophole in the 2009 Federal Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act allowed the tobacco industry to market products like e-cigarettes and cigars in candy flavors. The county currently protects kids from all flavored cigars, and I urge the board not to roll back these protections. Please do not put flavored premium cigars and loose leaf tobacco back on our shelves. It's clear the tobacco industry will use any loophole to hook new customers. This is why I support ending the sale of all flavored tobacco products without any exemptions. Thank you for your leadership on this issue. Please don't miss our opportunity today to make a real difference for our kids with the strongest possible policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is 3848. 3848.
Good morning, board. I'd first like to say that I am in support of a tobacco retail license, but I urge you to make some changes to this TRL because you are making it too difficult to be a retailer in this county. Most of the speakers today are still talking about flavored tobacco, but we have already banned flavored tobacco on vape products. We're talking about the tobacco retail program that you put together. The additional requirements and burdens you have added will close down the retailers in this county. I ask you to please consider removing some of these drastic changes in the way a retailer is able to do business. You mentioned the City of El Cajon TRL is successful. Well, it works because it is simple and effective. Your TRL is designed to penalize retailers right off the bat. For non-business owners that are calling in, it's easy to dismiss some of these details, but if you look at the reality of some of them, you are ripping the rights of the retailers in the county. For example, setting minimum prices on the products they sell will instantly make these retailers unable to compete with those in the neighboring cities. Why would adults be forced to drive further for products they want? It doesn't make sense. Especially now when we are looking for small businesses to keep our economy going, you are killing these businesses and ripping their freedoms away that they were lawfully given to them by our state. You're also requiring them to sell larger packaging of tobacco. Adults cannot afford that, especially right now. They will go to neighboring cities to purchase these products. Please consider removing some of these rules. Follow the suggestions given to you by the Neighborhood Market Association. Follow the cities that have done this for years, like El Cajon. Keep it simple, keep it effective, and please keep our businesses open. Thank you.
Could you please state your name for the record?
Ramon Mansour.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that'll conclude the public speakers before we break for the noon hour. For those individuals that have called in, you are welcome to stay on the line, or you can call back at 1 o'clock when the board reconvenes.
Thank you, Mr. Potter. We'll go ahead and take a recess then till 1 o'clock this afternoon when we will reconvene and hear the balance of the speakers on this item, and then the remaining business will be conducted after that. We'll stand in recess.